Good evening, everyone. I'm Rick Walker with Maverick Multimedia and Maverick News, and you are watching ongoing coverage of Freedom Convoy 2022. Cruising to the Capitol, but now it's more than just cruising to the Capitol. We're cruising to points in between all over Canada from coast to coast. And tonight, all eyes are focused on Windsor, Ontario, and the Windsor-Detroit border. I'm going to bring up some live footage for you right now and share that with you. This is what's going on at the border, at the Ambassador Bridge, right at this moment, where it's been pretty tense since last night. Police have increased their presence on scene, and with threats of increased fines and punishment, fines up to $100,000 and up to a year in jail for protesting at a border crossing from Ontario Premier Doug Ford, and similar threats from Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. It has not acted as a deterrent at all. In fact, the crowd down there right now is bigger than it was yesterday. A call went out from the people who were protesting there yesterday to the public, asking for people to come down and support what's going on there, and people answered the call. They did show up starting this morning, and the crowd has continued to grow. So here's kind of what has happened through the day. Overnight, last night, 7 p.m., an injunction took effect, which gave, I guess, more authority, or I guess more credibility to the government demands that the protesters leave the bridge, where the blockade is disrupting about $300 to $400 million worth of daily trade, cross-border trade. At midnight, new rules came into effect, or new laws that the premier just drew up out of thin air, saying that fines could increase to as much as $100,000 and or a year in jail. Plus, he's talking about not taking away the driver's licenses, both personal and commercial, for truck drivers, and also possibly confiscating trucks. So all of that was going on. And against that backdrop, we had protesters holding the line down there at the Ambassador Bridge. Let me see if I can pull up some additional footage here for you. So things got pretty intense, and police did bring in an armored vehicle. And at one point, I'd like to show you this picture. Veterans formed a line between police and the protesters to defend the protesters from the advancing police lines. Because during the day, police began a game of inches. They began just pushing forward a small, a few steps at a time, just inch by inch, taking more ground away from the protesters. This morning, when the crowd was probably at its lowest point, police thought they had a deal. And protesters who were there said that they might agree to leave the protest area and reopen the bridge with an eye toward having the vaccine mandates lifted. That, of course, has been the demand from the beginning. They want all the mandates gone. And they said if the mandates were not lifted within a day or two, they would come back in even greater numbers. But what happened is, as those negotiations were taking place between police and the protesters, and there really is no single organizer down there, because this entire movement has been very much an organic thing. It's just a grassroots populist uprising of patriotism and national pride. So as that was going on, more and more people began to show up. And the more people showed up, the less the people wanted to leave. So the police continued their incremental march forward, step by step, very, very slowly through the morning. And they kept pushing the crowd back. And they probably gained about 100 meters in ground on Huron Church Road in Windsor at the Windsor-Detroit border. But that's kind of where things ended. It's been a stalemate, a standoff at the Ambassador Bridge ever since. And the crowd has grown to a huge size again at the bridge. There are more people there now tonight than there were yesterday. All of that in the face of these increased threats and insults from the Premier of Ontario and the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau. So that's what's going on down at the border in Windsor. So tonight, all eyes remain on the border, where the government is under increasing pressure to do something because the auto companies, manufacturing plants, the economy is taking a major economic hit. And the governor of Michigan, President Biden, the prime minister, they're all putting pressure on Doug Ford to do something about this. And that's why they've called in. Police. They also brought in buses and told the protesters that the buses were there to keep the people safe while they were being taken off to jail. This is a picture of the armored vehicle that police brought in today. At times, there was an officer up through that portal or turret, armed with some sort of gun, and they had snipers on elevated positions on rooftops, keeping an eye on the protesters as well. All of this while regular working class truckers, farmers, moms, dads, kids, people from all walks of life came down to the border to basically send a message to Premier Doug Ford and Prime Minister Justin Trudeau saying that they're not afraid. They're not afraid of the government, and they're fed up with the mandates. They want the mandates gone. More than that, I think they want Justin Trudeau gone and probably Doug Ford as well. So that is really the message they've been sending in the face of this kind of militaristic reaction and militaristic force that has been unleashed against the people who are down there tonight fighting for freedom at the Windsor-Detroit border. Carla Olson has been our eyes and ears on the ground in Ottawa, and she will be joining us. We have some video from her. She may be joining us later in the broadcast, but we do have some video clips from her out of Ottawa, where she has been keeping tabs on things there for us, because that protest also grew today in size and in enthusiasm. So let me just see what I can queue up for you here. We've got a lot of different video clips to share with you, a lot of highlights. This again is live footage from the Windsor-Detroit border. This is some distance back from the Ambassador Bridge. People still walking up there and walking back, sometimes leaving the scene to go get warm in their cars while the protest at the border continues. I know that they've been putting out calls for more reinforcements, for more people to come down there. And people from really across southwestern Ontario have been driving down there today. People from as far away as Toronto, Brantford, Brampton, Leamington, Sarnia, all over the place. In addition, there has been media from both Canada, a lot more media down there tonight, and not just Canadian media, but also media from the United States, Fox 2 Detroit down there, Fox News, right in there with the people, doing interviews, and Channel 7, Channel 4, all the major U.S. networks on site tonight. All eyes and ears are on Windsor, Detroit, at the border, where a standoff continues to brew, and everyone is wondering: will this thing continue to be peaceful, as everyone is hoping? What will police do? It's a volatile, tense situation, and police have brought a lot of firepower to this, a lot of officers, a lot of boots on the ground, and they're determined to get this thing shut down tonight. So lots and lots going on down at the Windsor-Detroit border. In Ottawa, the celebration continues, and that's really what it is, has been, continues to be. And Carla Olson, our eyes and ears on the ground in Ottawa, spent the day talking to people, interviewing people, finding out why they're there, what their thoughts are, how the government restrictions and mandates have affected their lives. And in spite of police efforts to confiscate firewood, confiscate fuel, prevent people from bringing in food or water to the truckers as they attempt to freeze out and starve out the protesting truckers and others who are down there supporting them, people continue to gather firewood and they're finding creative ways to get it down into the areas where people need warmth against the bone-chilling cold that has a grip on all of Canada this February, and especially, it seems, in the nation's capital, where it's been one of the coldest weeks so far this year. So that is also a snapshot of what has been going on there. They've had this Jerry Can Express thing running where people have been in defiance, carrying even empty jerry cans around, gas cans, to confuse police and do an end run around them to get fuel to the trucks, because the truckers down there who are parked need the fuel in their trucks to run so that they can keep the trucks warm so they don't freeze to death outside Parliament. So in addition to that, we saw the veterans form a line, as I said, between the protesters in Windsor and the police who have been there to shut things down. Well, in Ottawa, it was much the same. And maybe even on a larger scale in a way. Well, I don't know. It takes a lot of courage to stand in a line against police. But in Ottawa today, at the National War Monument, the National War Memorial in Ottawa, veterans, the government put a barricade around the War Memorial because they accused protesters of desecrating it. One person had climbed up on the steps, turned and shouted freedom. They also said that, I don't even want to say what they said had happened to it. We've seen no evidence to back up the claim, so it's not even worth repeating. And it's clear that the government's narrative and this story that's also been cooked up by the legacy media about the War Memorial being desecrated, it's just not holding water. And people are seeing through these lies. And so today, Canadian veterans went down there and took down the barrier around the National War Memorial, where the protesters had actually been shoveling the snow off it, taking care of it, and the police did try to stop the veterans from taking the barricades down, but people rushed in and backed up the veterans, and this was the scene earlier today as the vets took down the fencing.
If I'm, yeah, I'm next to it.
See, we have veterans here.
Veterans are on our side, guys.
God bless them. Thank you very much. They're just leaving now.
It's interesting, you know, it's the protesters who keep singing the national anthem.
We're here fighting for freedom, guys.
It's the protesters
Join us!
who are waving the Canadian flags.
We're doing the bidding
Join
of
us!
the corrupt police chief.
Join us,
Join
guys!
us!
Join us!
Join us!
Join us!
Join us! Join us! Join us! Join us! Join us! Join us! Join us!
Join us!
Join us!
Join us!
Join us!
Join us!
Join us!
Join us!
Join us!
Join us!
Join us! Join us!
These are the cries of the mothers and the fathers. These are our cries. Hear us.
This footage supplied by John Nisbet.
Join us.
In their future!
So apparently, why veterans fencing around the memorial,
And that's what brought the police.
The veterans took the fence down.
The veterans took the fencing around the war memorial down. In Ottawa.
The veterans took the fence down, right? The veterans.
Yeah, we did.
You did.
Yeah,
You
we
took
did.
the fence down. The ones who have fought for our freedom. Thank you so much.
Join us! Join us! Join us! Join us! Join us! Join us!
The veterans took the fence down. They just died for this country. The veterans took the fence down. The veterans took the fence down.
Everybody on your knees!
On your knees! On your
Everybody on
knees!
your knees!
Everybody on your knees!
Join us!
Join us!
Join us! Join us!
Join us!
Join us!
On your knees, everybody!
Join us! Don't give up!
Don't give up!
Don't go!
Anyways, they left. They're gone. Good job,
Good
guys!
job, everybody!
Good job!
And that is what is really going on Parliament Hill.
Thank you, veterans. Thank you.
The stories of violence and white supremacy and hate and flags of hate. Folks, Folks, just absolute lies. Absolute lies. That's what went on Parliament Hill today. Your government put a fence around the War Memorial after exaggerating and distorting facts and twisting them into an evil little lie that they tried to spread across the country to infect people's minds. And the people who went to war to fight for our freedom stood up today, went down to the nation's capital under threat of severe penalty and prosecution, and did that for all of us, for you, for me, for our kids, for every Canadian. They reclaimed that war memorial from a prime minister who captured it, put a fence around it, prohibiting people from going there, from a prime minister who flew the Canadian flag at half staff for months to intentionally make Canadians feel ashamed of their country because he doesn't know how to bring people together, because all he has done for over 2 years is spew hate. And these patriotic heroes stood up today and answered that by giving the National War Memorial back to the Canadian people. That's what they did. This is a war. The government has all the guns and all the firepower, but I don't think they can win, because the other side is made up of the Canadian people, and all they're armed with is love. Love of country, love of their fellow Canadians, patriotism, national pride, and most of all, a yearning and a love for freedom. We all want it back. We want Canada back. And tonight, that's what everyone is fighting for. That's what everyone down there is fighting for. And they're doing it peacefully in a way that the world has never witnessed before. History is being made even tonight. Again, when it looked like the darkest hour was upon us and Windsor would fall, when it looked like Ottawa was on the verge of collapsing, when it looked like the festive spirit would turn into despair, the people rose up, answered the call, and they've come out in greater numbers than ever this weekend to defy a government that has been abusing the people for more than 2 years with lockdowns, restrictions, measures that have destroyed thousands of businesses across the country. A government that this week has accused the protesters of doing exactly what they've done, which is to damage the economy. Unbelievable. Inspirational is what that was, watching those veterans do that, watching the veterans stand between the protesters and police. Inspirational. Let's see if we can cue up some of this footage from from our eyes and ears on the ground in Ottawa, Carla Olson. I'm going to call on her to see if we can get something to show you, because she's had a lot to share with us, and I know she was down there very busy today. She spoke to a bunch of people, and I know she has some very interesting stories to share with you, with us. If you give me just one moment, I will get this fired up. Here we go. Okay. All right, let's get Carla queued up here. There's Carla, our intrepid reporter.
Hey, it's Carla back again in freezing Ottawa, but exciting Ottawa. I'm right here. I'm on Slater Street, just coming up to Metcalfe Street. We just took a little warming break because
This was
it was
earlier
necessary.
today.
I just thought we'd walk together up
A couple hours ago.
up to Wellington Street and up to the square, and we'll just kind of have a look at people. I don't know how many people I'll be able to interview on the way because there's a lot of people. And anyway, I'm going to find some neat people. So I'm just going to pan the area, see how it goes. Hopefully I can find something really neat to show you. But so far, just to tell you, like, this vibe here is amazing. I've been meeting all kinds of people who it's their first time here, and they're forever changed already. One woman said she's been so healed from the loss of relationship, from the fear that she's been under, from also talking about her children and her grandchildren and how she just grieves this life that they have to live. She says she feels hope, and that's what this is about. This is about ending the mandates, but it's also about healing everyone and bringing hope. It's a celebration, guys. We're celebrating freedom. Look at this, like it's already happened. We've already won. We're walking into freedom. Might get blocked for the music, just a warning.
I can't hear you at all. All right, I'll call you soon, all right? Love
So as you can see, tons of people down there. Justin Trudeau told them all to go home. The thing is, a lot of the people who are protesting, not all of them, but a lot of them have lost their jobs. Some of them have lost their businesses, their homes. And they've got nothing left to lose. These truckers who can't cross the border because of the vaccine mandates, some of those guys, they've got no place to go anyway. They've got nothing better to do. So they're down there fighting for what it says on the side of that truck, freedom. So this was the scene in Ottawa just a couple hours ago. This is a report from Carla Olson. Now, so far, our channel has not been monetized. We've not asked anybody for anything, but Carla is absorbing some pretty hefty expenses to be down there in Ottawa. So I have put a link in the description for this live broadcast tonight. And there is a link on there where you can click to donate to help us cover expenses, and we will help Carla cover some of her expenses for her time in Ottawa. Carla also lost her job as a nurse, and there's part of the jerry can express right there. People carrying empty jerry cans around as part of the protest, because police, the municipality, the mayor passed some rule or law that said that it was illegal to provide food or fuel to the truckers. All these measures that they've been taking down there have been very militaristic. It's been a military kind of approach, a war measures type of approach. That's the way they've been attacking these people. They've gone after first they went after the GoFundMe money. That money got refunded to the people, or is being refunded. Give, Send, Go set up their
Liberty.
Their account.
We do.
And now the government's going after
so you
that.
guys came from Quebec?
Yeah.
Where in Quebec? Did I say that right, Quebec?
Yeah, Quebec.
Because a lot of people say Quebec. I didn't
I
know.
live about half an hour from Montreal.
Montreal. I'm from Ontario, and I'm from southwestern Ontario. So I live near the Michigan border in a town called Sarnia. So near Toronto, London. It took us 6.5 hours to get here.
6.5. Wow.
Yeah, that's nothing.
Thank you very much, eh?
It's, you know what? It's our absolute joy to be here.
Yeah, it's a joy. It's like the last fight, eh? If we don't win this, it's going to be like the Chinese, government, because Trudeau, I think he sold us to the China, because in Vancouver they got the army over there, and they're just waiting, for the people to be enough numb, because they watch the news, and the news, they only tell lies. They say, like tomorrow, they're going to say, we broke all stuff, we vandalized. It's only lies. And they say today, we were supposed to have some fines if we could. And they made a deal with the truckers. They don't need to get vaccinated. And it's all bullshit, all lies. And the people, they listen to the news. And they try to put them against us, all the people who watch the news, they want
that division, the division.
Yeah, the division,
And it did work, but what do you see here? Do you see division in this place?
It cannot work here.
No. I see unity. What else do you see here? Love. Yeah, exactly. So, and you came and you knew that there was a chance to get a fine or arrest. You didn't care.
Bonjour. Tu m'as regardé? Ah ouais, je t'ai déjà vu dans le temps. Ta petite fille, là?
Ah, yes. You're free. So you're already free. Beautiful. Thank you so much. All the way from Quebec. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you for coming. God bless you. That is probably the best shirt I've ever seen in my life. Oh, I'm struggling with all this stuff.
So this is Ottawa today. This footage shot just a short time ago by Carla Olson, who is in Ottawa on the ground checking things out for us.
What's in those bags? Oh, that wind.
You're sweet God in heaven.
Yes, it's no joke, guys. It's cold in Ottawa.
Hey,
Ottawa cold is a cold on its own.
Next time we stand up for
Yeah.
the government, can we do it in Florida?
Or can we do it in the summer?
Yeah, that'd be nice.
What a show of people in terrible weather conditions.
So also
I think they
yesterday,
have a friend. Those guys. in
as I
back of us,
mentioned,
I think they have a friend
um,
named Dom that ended up in jail.
Who?
Free Dom. Free Dom.
we're just going to pull out of that for a few minutes. Yesterday, as I said, as a brilliant strategic move, Ottawa police, with their reinforcements, moved in and confiscated bouncy castles that had been set up for all the kids and the families that have been coming down to this protest / freedom festival. Well, today, this was the scene as the protesters responded.
Say hi, Mia. Say hi. Say hi, Danny. Hi.
So, bouncy castles have returned to the nation's capital today.
A little setup here for the kids. Toys to play with. And we got this thing blowing up right now.
And as I understand it, they've also been giving out cotton candy. And police have increased their presence in the area. So the protest continues, if you want to call it a protest, but it still has a party atmosphere, a festival atmosphere. It feels very much like a New Year's Eve celebration. And it is not just in the nation's capital. It's not just in Ottawa. It's not just in Windsor. What we have going on is stuff across the country. This has inspired protests in other major centers. This was at the Manitoba legislature today. And we are also, hang on just a second here. Let me just make sure. We also are seeing talk of convoys being formed in the United States. And we're seeing convoys, freedom convoys form in other countries, Australia, many countries around the world, even tonight. But in spite of all this positive energy, the love being spread, in spite of the bouncy castles, Justin Trudeau is still refusing to speak with the demonstrators. And they're still being labeled as terrorists, white supremacists. This is being described as an insurrection. And somehow it seems like all of this is completely unnecessary. But it persists, it goes on, because the government won't talk to its own citizens. And instead of dealing with this in a constructive and positive way, they're sending the cops in with riot gear. And so the situation continues to escalate. So the cops keep pushing in Windsor, and we'll just have to see what happens at the Windsor-Detroit border. That's where all eyes are tonight, really, because that seems to be the pressure point. That's the battlefront that everyone is watching, waiting to see what happens there. It's cold, and last night, some people stayed there, didn't go to bed, stayed up all night long to hold the line. And as I said earlier this morning, it looked like the people who were still on scene after a few vehicles had been moved, they were considering leaving on the condition that the mandates be lifted within a couple of days. And if not, they said they would come back in even greater numbers. But then more people showed up, and we ended up with a crowd down there, even larger than what they had yesterday. And it looks like many of them are ready to dig in for another night. All that is happening, though, while police have their marching orders. It's clear the government is not prepared to let this continue, and they are trying to find some way to end this protest at the border without anyone being hurt. But the longer it goes on, the longer the danger of someone being hurt or having this thing get out of hand in some way lingers. So we're all crossing our fingers, hoping and praying that a peaceful resolution can be reached. But man, it is a standoff. It is a stalemate, and it's not clear where this is all going to end up. Let's go back to more footage now from Carla Olson in the nation's capital, Ottawa.
I'm sorry, dropping my camera.
Do you need a hand?
Yeah, you could use one. Hold the camera out to the people's offices. Hold it nicely, though. Thank you.
Ooh, we're panning around. Look at all the wonderful people. Hey, Tony
We're going to
Martin.
see if we can get you some of the newest stuff from Windsor.
People here got a guy named Dom that ended up in jail, and they want him free. I'm not sure what's up. Carla doesn't think that's funny.
Don't mind Big Law. He needs to stick to law. He's good at that, though.
And we do have some new footage, live stuff coming out of Windsor right now. So we're going to switch our feed and take you over there.
That was awesome. You need to dance to warm you up. Yeah, there's not enough room at the front to dance, though.
So here we are back in Windsor at the Ambassador Bridge tonight. This is live.
I'm not a very good dancer either. Oh, man. There's all the Canadian flags. Break them down with love. Oh. All the love. That's a lot. Only when I'm drunk, Hope. I'm not drunk now.
Ask them what municipality. Oh,
London, yeah, it says right on the.
Yeah, police from London, Chatham, Kent,
It's on his armband.
OPP, Windsor,
It is so cold.
other police services all down there on the Windsor-Detroit border tonight. Snipers on rooftops from elevated positions, watching the crowd.
Drone up there. The first one I've seen since I've been back this evening.
An armored vehicle in
I saw
place.
one earlier, but it was an
At times, an officer in full body armor popping up through the portal or turret
What?
with a rifle, some sort of
Yeah, it's cold.
automatic weapon. And you see police have now moved in cement barricades
That is a big old gun.
to defend the ground, I guess, that they've claimed through the day. And you see that officer with a gun at the ready. And on the other side, the protesters armed with Canadian flags, at times breaking out into song, singing the national anthem.
Another round of "Oh Canada." Sorry,
Oh,
I'm cold.
there
Are you
goes.
Okay. I'm freezing. Intimidation, yeah, that's right. They're walking back and forth with them guns. You know what? The ones that are holding the line, they're doing great. They're just doing their job. They don't want to be here either, I'm sure. Freezing their butts off. They're doing a good job. They don't want to be here either. Trying to intimidate people. Don't let it get to you. Oh, no. I'm not. I haven't left yet. Other than to get warm and, grab a coffee.
I don't know if they're gonna go with like the high ending or the low ending, so I kind of like wait and see what the crowd does. And then... Are you gonna blow that in his face?
No,
I'm kidding, the
I
guy. Okay, thank you.
Looking
out for you.
They are nice.
They are, yeah.
They're doing their job.
For sure.
I know, that's why I said,
For sure. I'm currently rounding up people to go in the morning shift, and I got quite a few people interested already. That's awesome, actually. Like I said, I'm not sure what the plan.
And that has been the common theme through all of this at every protest that we've seen in every city, Ottawa, Windsor, Sarnia, and the Alberta Coots border, everywhere. Protesters insisting that everyone remain peaceful and always generally wishing the best for police as well and being concerned for their welfare. Nobody wants anybody to get hurt. Nobody wants things to escalate to a point where there's any kind of violence. And the protesters understanding that the police have a job to do because they're following orders, which come obviously from above. The Premier, the Prime Minister saying that it's not politicians who direct police. The politicians make the laws, the police enforce them. But as this thing has progressed, the politicians keep making up new laws and ignoring the ones they don't much care for, most specifically and most importantly, the Constitution and the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which they've suspended using COVID as an excuse. The freedom fighters are down there demanding the restoration of our constitutional rights and the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. And this is the scene tonight. It looked like this was likely, that Windsor was likely going to fall, that the police would be successful in clearing out the protesters, but they're still holding the line after police claimed about 100 meters of ground down here on Church toward the Ambassador Bridge and the Windsor-Detroit border today. Kind of a stalemate at this point.
I'm pretty sure it was last night.
And really, police, if they really wanted to clear out those protesters, there are things they could do to get them out of there, but the optics wouldn't be good. and it would certainly escalate, and it would be aggressive. And obviously, police are trying to take a responsible approach to this, and they haven't resorted to anything that drastic. Instead, opting for an incremental, inch by inch, creeping approach, claiming a little bit of ground, a little bit at a time. And yet, through it all, as Carla said in her video, which we ran just a short time ago here, through it all, she's like, we've already won, she says. The people have already won. And in many respects, she's right. Because there have been a lot of points scored on the freedom side. Aaron O'Toole, leader of the federal Conservatives, gone. Obviously, his own party got rid of him in part because of what's going on with these protests. Provinces. Some provinces, PEI, Saskatchewan, Alberta, announcing that the mandates will be coming to an end in those provinces. All of that announced after these protests began, this nationwide convoy, where we saw an outpouring of love and patriotism as people lined the highways to greet the truckers as they made their way by the thousands to Ottawa in their rigs, accompanied by thousands of other Canadians in their own cars, minivans, SUVs. So, yeah, a lot of points being scored. And even in Ontario, Doug Ford, the premier there, is now saying that, and so too is the province's top medical officer, saying that the vaccine passports will be reviewed because of the way things have changed. They won't admit that the protests have anything to do with it, but it's pretty clear that they do. The unfortunate thing is the politicians are still doubling down on this authoritarian, militaristic response to the protests that are taking place in Ottawa and Windsor and Manitoba and all the other points in between. Even though it's clear that these mandates are going to be coming to an end anyway. The politicians could end this right now by saying, okay, it's time for the mandates to end. But instead, it's like they feel they can't appear to be weak or something, and they just won't give in right now, so they have to send in the cops to take these kinds of actions. We'll go back now to more of the coverage from Carla Olson, our eyes and ears on the ground in Ottawa, the nation's capital, Parliament Hill. And here's more from Carla. Reaching out to see if we can grab anything new out of Windsor, and we'll get you the latest live stream as well from Ottawa, so you can see what's happening on the ground there tonight. Hey, Brendan.
Hey, how are ya?
Excellent.
Friends don't let friends stream alone, so here I am.
You're supposed to be vacationing today.
I was vacationing, but I can't let it go.
Well, I'm glad you showed up because people are tired of listening to me.
Oh, I highly doubt that. I have lots of BS to spew, too. So, I am out of the loop today, but what's the situation on the Windsor border?
Oh, man. So, like, pretty exciting stuff. Riveting, really. So today on the Windsor-Detroit border, and you know what? I'm going to switch the feed here because I'm going to pull out of this stuff from Carla and go to some live footage out of Ottawa. So just give me just one moment, and then I'm going to bring you up to speed, my friend. What's been going on? Because all kinds of stuff has been happening down there.
I was able to watch some live streams today, and boy, does it look crazy down there. I've seen a mixture of older and younger veterans standing the line against the mixed amount of police that are down there.
Yep.
The crowd down there is unarmed, but yet the OPP has some pretty serious-looking firepower.
Oh, yes. Yeah, so what I know is, and I've kind of shared this with the audience, but for those just joining us, it'll be a good Reader's Digest condensed version. People overnight held the line. They were calling on the public to come and join them, and the public answered the call, and more people began to show up during the day. But early in the morning, the numbers were down, and police tried to negotiate with the people on site. They considered leaving at that point. Some vehicles had been moved, and in spite of media reports that said the whole thing was over with and that police had been towing vehicles, that wasn't the case. It was not over. Some of the protesters moved the vehicles on their own, and some were ready to pack it in, thinking that they'd sort of scored a victory and said that they would leave. But if the mandates were lifted, they would come back in greater numbers after 2 or 3 days. But then people started to roll in from all parts of southern Ontario. Brampton, Brantford, Toronto, Leamington, Sarnia, all over the place. And within a short time, the crowd grew to a size that was far beyond what was even there yesterday. And because there's no real single person who is an organizer or a figurehead, it's been an organic movement. They kind of got together and talked about it, I guess, and the people just decided to hold the line. So police have been taking this sort of step-by-step, incremental approach to enforcing it with snipers on rooftops, an armored car there. Every once in a while, a cop in full body armor pops up out of a portal on the top of this armored car with what appears to be like an automatic weapon. Cops down there with their semi-automatic or automatic weapons. I'm not a weapons expert, so I can't tell you exactly what they are, but they're obviously not BB guns. And so pushing the protesters back by taking like a couple of steps forward and pausing, and a couple of steps forward and pausing. And they've been at it all day, all afternoon, all night, and they've gained about 100 meters of territory on Huron Church. And just when it looked like the thing was going to fold again, the protesters brought in more people, showed up, and they've just been standing their ground. And it's sort of been a stalemate ever since then, with people just holding the line right into the late afternoon. So, the police have been taking, I think, a fairly responsible approach to dealing with it, with something that they probably don't want to have to be dealing with. They're under pressure from the government to get this thing shut down. But so far they have not been successful. Will they be successful? I imagine they will be eventually at some point. They have the resources to get that job done. It's a much different situation in Windsor than it is in Ottawa. It's more contained. It's clearer who the protesters are versus in Ottawa where you have just local residents even there, and it's a much bigger crowd in Ottawa. many more people to deal with. In Windsor, though, they have buses that they've brought in, city buses, and those buses are there. The police have made it clear to the protesters that those buses are there to haul them off to jail. So that's where it's at in Windsor tonight, and that's where it remains. And in Ottawa, the crowd is bigger tonight, I think, than it was even last weekend. Again, people answering the call for reinforcements and people showing up in huge numbers. Huge numbers. And even though they confiscated the bouncy castles yesterday, and as I said, in a brilliant strategic military move by Ottawa's police chief, General Slawley, they made there are bouncy castles back there today, and kids playing again. So it looks like and people are still bringing in firewood, even though it's supposed to be illegal now.
This just goes to show you, like, I've been busier than heck all day, and for the most part, when we do these streams, I'm glued to my phone and the internet all day so that I could be in the loop of things. But this just goes to show you that this is a minute-by-minute story, that all of that has happened in the span of time since I have not been able to really be attached to the internet and my devices all day. It goes so quickly. This reminds me, like, I don't mean to get biblical here, but there's a story, and it relates to the Hanukkah story, about the Maccabees, who only had enough oil in their lamps to light the lamps for a few hours or a day, but meanwhile the oil in the lamp lasted for the 8 days. And that's what we're looking at here. This is like a miracle, like, if I've ever seen one before. Will these people be punished? I guarantee you they will be. It's like, people are going to get hurt out of this, but this is a miracle. This is what happens when you censor people for 2 years and you cause serious harm to everything. And thank goodness that these people have stood up, because it's like, when I was at the 402 blockade the other day.
Yeah.
And I was talking to the farmers that were at the barricade on the 402, and I was like, so what brought everybody to doing this? And they said, well, those truckers rolling across the country. And I said, well, if they can stand up, then so can we.
Yes. It's inspiring. It's a national moment, really. And if the government would stop lying about it, and if the media would stop perpetuating those lies, repeating them and amplifying them, and even taking them to other lengths, people could embrace this moment as a positive thing, as a great Canadian moment where Canadians stood up and fought for their freedom. And if the government would embrace it, the politicians who would do that could end up being national heroes themselves by saying, you know what, you guys are right. It's time for Canadians to love their country again. And yeah, we need our freedom back. And this is a great time for us all to unite under this umbrella of freedom. And regardless of which political party that might come from, those guys could be national heroes and go down in history as such. Justin Trudeau could turn his entire political career and fortunes around right now in a positive way by just coming out and saying, you know what, let's do it, guys. But he won't even come out to talk to them. And you're right, it is a miracle, Brendan. You're 100% right. Nobody hurt. These things have been entirely peaceful, even as they've been accused of being white supremacist, racist, fascist, Nazis, blah, blah, blah. You go down there, look, they're all wrapped in Canadian flags, flying the Canadian flag. And I just saw a video from John Nesbitt that we ran here just a short time ago that just about brought me to tears again. And that was the National War Memorial surrounded by barricades. A group of veterans came down there today and took the barricades down. Police tried to stop them, and the public rushed in to back up the veterans, and the veterans took the barricades down, reclaimed that ground, and gave it back to the Canadian people. They reclaimed it from the government that had misappropriated it for their own political purposes, in my view, because they had distorted and twisted a little story into an evil little lie about the way it had been supposedly desecrated. But the veterans saw through that BS and went down there and said, no, this is a memorial that the protesters have been honoring by shoveling the snow off it, taking care of it, and we're giving it back to the people. And that's what they did. And that was a truly moving moment.
And they're absolutely right to. The story of these wars does not belong to the government.
That's right.
These are my ancestors and your ancestors that went through probably the most horrendous trauma since what we've been through in the past 2 years. And I'm not making it comparable. I'm just saying it was that type of trauma is different than what we've been through in the past 2 years. But it's probably the most horrendous trauma since that time. But it was my grandparents and your grandparents and the people who are joining us today's grandparents. Those monuments belong to them. It does not belong to the government.
Yes. And if the veterans, if that national monument had truly been desecrated by these protesters,
yeah,
evil, hateful, raucous protesters who had no respect for veterans, if that was really the case, do you think those veterans would have gone down there today to do what they did? Or do you think the veterans would have stood in a line across Huron Church Road today to form a barrier between the protesters and police to protect the protesters? I think not.
No.
That story just doesn't wash.
None of it
doesn't fly here, man.
Everything that the mainstream media and everything that they've been pushing out, it's absolutely atrocious and wrong. And that's why we're here, my friend, because we've decided that this is no longer acceptable. And here it is. This was the protest that was supposed to last until last Wednesday.
Yeah.
And that's what we said. It would last until last Wednesday. But here it goes. And you know what? Although in the story of the Maccabees, although they do lose in the end, it's still not what matters, because that moment is still remembered by a culture to this day and is a celebrated part of the Jewish religion to this day, although it happened thousands of years ago. Where this is going to go now is anybody's guess. There's still going to be the hurtful moment that's going to happen when this all ends. And it's not going to be because of the government, or it's not going to be because we failed, but it's going to be because the government had interfered in with the police altogether.
And here they are, like, it looks like this is where, they're giving out food here, right? I don't know what they're serving up, but that's what they've been doing from the very beginning. Like, they just give away food. The homeless people there have never been so well fed. And as Carla said last night, not only are the homeless in downtown Ottawa being fed, they also have companionship, people to talk to for the, it's like this mini community with social supports and everything in place. This is not what the media would have the public believe at all, or the government.
No, of course not. And you know what? It's dangerous to the government. And it's to the point now where even longtime Liberal Bill Maher, I'm sure you're aware of Real Time with Bill Maher.
Oh, yeah.
Or Bill Maher, excuse me. Even he is saying, he talked about all the disgraceful things that Justin Trudeau said and compared it to Hitler. But I have some words for Justin Trudeau that I think that really need to be vented out here right now. And I'm kind of in the zone right now, so I kind of want to. That he says that we voted on this in the last election. But you know what? I paid so much attention to that last Canadian election. We didn't debate any of this. No debate was had on this. And the only party that did debate it or discuss it wasn't allowed in the public debates. Almost by design. Nobody voted on this. And the people who did voted on it just voted on the same colors that they always vote. They treated this like it was a regular election.
Yeah.
And we had lots of people out there that were warning them. This is not going to go down good. Here we are. It's blown up. And I'll tell you something too. Justin Trudeau knew exactly what he was doing in the last election, and I have the documentation to prove it. I would love to actually play that if we could.
Yeah.
So I have a discussion of him at the World Economic Forum. And as you saw, he started playing very dirty in that last election, where he started pitting people against people. Oh, don't think that you can sit on a plane or a train next to somebody who isn't vaccinated. He knew exactly what he was doing, and I have the documentation here to prove it right now.
Yep.
So let me see here. I'm going to pull it.
Well, you're absolutely right about that too. I mean, the PPC was the only party in the last federal election that was truly opposed to these lockdowns, mandates, and all of that, right? It was the only party, and they weren't allowed in the debate. And so the other parties were all on the same page with regard to this. So yeah, go ahead.
Maybe you've heard this before, but man, somebody sent this to me today, and I just imploded on the inside. But neither here nor there. Let's play it. I don't think I can make the screen any bigger, but all that matters is that we hear it. So if you could hear it, make sure you let me know.
I think it comes down to a conception of what you think leadership is all about. And yes, we've seen it's very possible to get elected through playing up divisions and negativity. And that happens, and it's a tried and true path. It's a tried and true path. It's a tried and true path. One of the things that I feel is that once you get elected through dividing people, it becomes very hard to then govern responsibly for everyone. And you can't just keep scaring people and hope to move the world forward. Because if you do that too much, you lose part of the free and open nature of society. I think it comes down to a conception of what you think leadership is all about.
What do you think about that?
Well, he always flips things around, doesn't he? He talks about, and we've seen him do it repeatedly, exactly what he's doing here. He says he wouldn't want to win an election. Like it's easy to win an election by using division, but that's exactly what he did. And we also know that the Liberals were using psychographic polling to sort of get into people's heads and figure out not just traditional polling, but psychographic polling to measure people's attitudes or views on specific issues on an emotional level, and using that data to manipulate people with specific kinds of language, by crafting their campaign messages using that psychographic data. It's new marketing technology that they're utilizing, and they did it very effectively in the federal election, but the result has been extremely dangerous, because what they really did was tap into people's hate. They filled them with fear, and then they used hate to fuel their campaign by convincing people that they had an enemy in the unvaccinated. And they wanted people to unite behind them, the Liberal Party, because they offered what was viewed as a solution through the vaccine and these authoritarian vaccine mandates and other lockdowns and other punitive and restrictive measures that were supposed to save us all. So very negative, very, very dark.
Very
and
dark.
That's what he did.
And this is the proof. A lot of people make the grave mistake of calling Justin Trudeau an idiot or calling him stupid. That's a big mistake. He is not stupid. He knows human nature, and he knows it well. This is him before the coronavirus incident telling people what the power of creating a divide between people is and what the effect of creating that divide between people is. He hit the nail on the head. Because he's not stupid, it doesn't matter who's writing his speeches or whatnot. He's still pretty smart. He knows what he's doing, and I think we've all underestimated him in a very dangerous way. And that's also a big part about why we are here today. We've underestimated our political opponent to a degree that is horrendous. Is he pompous? Yes. Is he spoiled rotten? Yes. He's all those things and more. But if you were to call him stupid, that's your mistake, man, because he is not a moron. He's not stupid. He knows what he's doing. He's been playing these cards. He can play stupid all he wants, but he knows exactly what he's doing, and he knows exactly what he did.
Right now, though, it looks to me like he has overplayed his hand because he underestimated the Canadian people. And the people are getting over their fear.
Yeah.
Their fear of not only the virus, but also their fear of the government. And we're fortunate and we're oh so lucky because I honestly believe we have been on the edge of slipping into the most horrific, darkest place any country can ever go. I think the government was about ready to start rounding up unvaccinated people and shipping them off to camps where they would be quarantined, isolated, maybe even worse. And we've seen through history where measures taken by governments like that, where they demonize a certain section of the population, we're seeing it in China right now with the Uyghurs, it ends up in mass exterminations at times. Don't think it can't happen here. Why would we be exempt? The only thing that has saved us is smart, compassionate Canadians who are finally waking up and realizing how horrific and monstrous these steps towards segregation have been. And thank God people are waking up.
And they are, and in huge numbers. Could we play what Bill Maher had to say about this?
Yeah, let's pull him up. Let's find him and
I got it here. It's only about a minute long.
Yeah, it shows. You're right again. I mean, it shows how even people who have been on the left are finding their way back to the middle ground because this is so insane and dangerous and dark and evil. It really, truly is evil.
Well, Bill would have gotten big trouble for making this comparison here, but we'll just let it play, then we'll talk to it for...
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Justin Trudeau. What? You're laughing, but Justin Trudeau, I mean, I thought he was kind of a cool guy. Then I started to read what he said. This is a couple of weeks ago. He was, or maybe this is September, but he was talking about people who are not vaccinated. He said they don't believe in science. They're often misogynistic, often racist. No, they're not.
That was not smart of him at all.
Right. He said, but they take up space. And with that, we have to make a choice in terms of a leader as a country. Do we tolerate these people? It's like, tolerate them. Now you do sound like Hitler.
That was...
and recently he talked about them holding unacceptable views.
Wow. I'm surprised to hear that Trudeau said those things.
I'm not.
You didn't see the blackface? I mean, no, I'm kidding about it. I'm not. I mean, that was not a good look for him. But I mean, come on. I mean, that's, I think, what gets under people's skin.
So,
got under my skin.
With that being said, you could put the other thing back up now, but if anybody else would have said that a matter of months ago, even 2 months ago, they would have said, "Oh, how dare you make a World War II Nazi comparison about this?" But here we have Bill Maher making the comparison between Justin Trudeau and Hitler, and no fucks given. Maher is, of course, a classical liberal. At least I would call him a classical liberal because he errs on the side of common sense almost all the time. And that's why I pretty much enjoyed his content throughout his career, because he's more or less on the side of common sense. I don't agree with everything he says, of course, but that is some powerful stuff that he just said there. that now he sounds like Hitler. Yes, he does. And he's sounded like Hitler since September.
Yeah. Yes. Everything coming out of his mouth has just been divisive. It's fueled hatred. And it's been by design. Those words have been chosen carefully. And I'm certain that those words were chosen because they've been following that psychographic data and a plan designed to manipulate the Canadian public on an emotional level.
Of course. It's like I said, we are at fault for calling Trudeau an idiot because, like, I have some experience in dramatic arts, and I know you have some experience in dramatic arts. What do they teach you in dramatic arts, Rick Walker? They teach you, what is your motivation? Who are you? The innermost depths of what it is to be human. They study that, and they study it well. I'm not saying he's like the smartest guy ever, but is he equipped with the knowledge on how to manipulate people? Absolutely. And lots of people have been not too bright to understand that and not to see that.
Yeah. I think we've come very, very close to, as I said, a disaster where people would be dragged off to camps. I think we've just pulled back and just in time, and thank you truckers for that, because they are the ones who showed people they're not alone, and you don't have to be afraid to speak up.
No,
and
you
that's the other thing. I mean, for a long time, even longer than for 2 years, but especially over the past 2 years, people have been petrified to say what they really think. Say anything about COVID to anybody, and depending on which side you're on, you're going to get attacked.
I think it was you who said this last night. Like, this is no longer about left and right. This is about right and wrong.
Good versus evil, even, yes. It is.
Because every liberal out there needs to understand that the Liberal Party used to be the party of compassion. What's compassionate about what they're doing? Nothing. The only thing they show compassion for is things that fit in their ideological box. But that's not what compassion is.
No, they've moved so far to the left. The political landscape, as I've said many times in these broadcasts, the political landscape has been redrawn and continues to be redrawn. The liberals who were sort of, left of center with, they had some conservative liberals who were conservative fiscally, but liberal socially. But, they left the middle. They've gone far, 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 far left. And the NDP has gone even further left. And they're nowhere near the center. If you want to have a political spectrum that looks like that, okay? And the Conservatives, thinking that the only way to win an election with a leader like O'Toole, went far to the left as well. So to the point where they were more like the left wing, the old school left wing liberals, and the lefties that were within the party. There were no more conservatives. We had none.
No.
Except on some of the smaller parties like the PPC. All of this, it's just redrawn everything, and people continue to vote for these brands like liberal, conservative, NDP, but they're not what they used to be. These are not the parties of even just a few years ago.
Absolutely not. And here's the thing. We need the left and the right in a democratic society. We need that. Because if we don't have that, we only have one party. It makes an illusion of what you're voting for. You could vote for this color or you could vote for that color, but the colors are really just the same. But what you need the diversity of thought and opinion. And, you know, it's okay to be liberal. It's okay to have these things. But at some point, the left and the right decided it was okay to manipulate and change our rights. And then they started doing it piece by piece by piece, just all the little things that they're no longer functioning like they should be. It's like these things are supposed to be the pillars of our democracy where they hold everything together. And then they go, you know what, we maybe don't need this section of this pillar. We could just cut that in half. And you know what, maybe this pillar, we don't even need it at all anymore. We could just take that out. So you start messing with the structural bones of our houses, and what happens? They implode and they collapse.
Again, you're right on the money. We need the diversity of thought, diversity of ideas, so that we can continue to refine our society, improve our laws, our legislation, our social programs, the way we govern, right? Our own country. But through it all, we need that constitutional foundation. We need our freedoms protected as they have been in the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and we can't allow a government to strip that away as they have in a big power grab, using something like COVID as an excuse.
Or even gender ideology. Like we see, I can't remember the name of the bloody bill. Like remembering the name of or the number, what was it, C-16 or something back in 2016? Mm-hmm. It started all with that, where it became punishable by a human rights tribunal to misgender somebody and all this other stuff. It's like once we started compelling speech, it was like the rot was already there before then, but then it picked out its ugly face, and then now you could see all the mold in your basement. That's when it all started, because they said to our constitutional foundation, they said, well, we don't need this pillar here, so we can just cut that out. We'll make rules that don't hurt people's feelings and stuff like that. And so once that happened, it just...
Yeah, you're right. There is a lot of cancer, a lot of rot within government, within the new legislation that has been written in recent years, new laws. These hate speech laws really scare me because, while it sounds like a good idea to have hate speech laws to prevent hate speech, the truth is those laws, that legislation is there so that the government can use that as a tool to prosecute people who just disagree with them. That's what those laws are.
Big time. Because we already have harassment laws. Like, it's illegal to harass somebody. We already have court orders, so on. Like, I could go on forever and ever, but we already have laws that protect people, and they're quite good at protecting people. But I think this isn't just on the blame of the citizens, because it's also on the blame of the government, but it's also at blame of the citizens, because a lot of people forget, if somebody criminally harms you, it is your civic duty to go forward to the law and present your case that this person has created illegal harm to you.
And the people that yeah, sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Those things aren't always easy either, because those are some of the foulest aspects of human nature. So it's not easy to go forward to hang it into a court of law, but just because something is hard doesn't mean we need to give the government unlimited power to do whatever it thinks is best.
Yeah, and these people down here tonight dancing, singing the national anthem, waving the flags, they know something's wrong. And they've been affected in a very negative way over the past 2 years. Most people can't express in a detailed way what has to change because everybody's out there busy working, right? At their jobs, they've got lives. They can't find the time to dig into every piece of legislation and read all these laws and understand all of it.
No.
But it's gotten so bad that the people can see that it's having this huge negative effect on their lives, and that's what we're seeing here as a response.
It's not even easy for me and you. Like, in order to do these streams here, we need to pay attention to what's happening in Parliament. We have to pay attention to what happens at the provincial legislature. We need to pay attention to what's happening in our municipal politics so that we can provide people with information in a good way, right? So even for us who maybe have a little bit more time than others to dedicate towards doing that, or struggling to make the time to do that, it's not easy for us either. It's all very complicated, but some things got to be walked back. I think Jordan Peterson put it best when he said, you better watch what you're doing before you break something that can't be fixed.
Yes, that's right. And that's the question that nobody ever asks when people say we want to fundamentally transform this country, or if they say, we want to change things. Okay, well, you want to change things, but or they say they want to, Canada's broken. We got to tear this down. Change it into what? What are we changing it into? And if we tear this down, what are we replacing it with? We need fundamental change into what? And really what's been happening is Justin Trudeau and people on the far left have been fundamentally changing our society for a while now. And this is where it has led.
And people on the right have allowed it to happen.
Yes.
With incompetence, I would say.
Yeah. And we've got this collectivist, communist ideology that has been forming in the country and taking hold. And we're now at the point where a lot of people have abandoned the idea of individual rights, which is what the country is actually was based on.
And that's a good point because do you remember that emergency debate we had? Was that last Monday? It was last Monday. We had an emergency debate in Parliament at about 6 p.m. Everybody had their chance to basically talk about all the issues that they should have talked about in the very last election. Some very good speeches on all sides. But I have to say, what really happened in Parliament that night was the question of, do we want Canada to be the country of collectivist rights or of individual rights? And they still haven't figured it out yet.
Right. Penelope is asking if the PayPal link, which we set up to take donations to help cover the expenses of providing this coverage, if that money can be frozen. The answer is highly unlikely. I suppose PayPal could do whatever they want, but when the money goes in, we will be taking the money out immediately so that they won't have time to get it. In addition to that, the money is not going to the truckers. It's going to help, really specifically in this case, Carla, who has been down in Ottawa, absorbing all of the expenses on her own. And we have not monetized this channel. We have tens of thousands of people watching all over the world every time we do these broadcasts. The response has been phenomenal. We haven't asked for anything up to this point, for any kind of support. We've just been doing it because we realized that people couldn't rely on the mainstream media, and we're curating the content and trying to get an unedited uncensored view out there as much as possible with some commentary and analysis. And Carla's been on the ground, and she's been absorbing the bulk of the costs. To be up there, she has to have a place to stay, and it's expensive.
And also, she had sacrificed her job as she did not want to participate in getting vaccinated.
Right.
She was one of those people who had a choice to lose their job or to participate in a scientific experiment.
Yeah, so Brendan and I had a discussion, and we said, we got to do something to try and help her because she's just, absorbing all the expenses, and it's costly. So we're trying to help her out. And if we can generate a little bit of money, she can stay longer. She'd like to stay and see this thing right through to the end, but she's going to have to leave there very soon. And so my point is, no, they can't really freeze the money because it's not going to the truckers, and the government is telling them they have to freeze the money because the truckers are terrorists. Our company, our organization, we're practicing journalism, and we're not doing anything illegal. We're not under investigation in any way, and we're not even on their radar. So no, they would not freeze the money, and we'll be extracting it immediately and getting it straight over to Carla. So that's what the money is for. It's to help us cover expenses, bandwidth if we need it, food, lodging for Carla. It's just going to help us stay on the air to continue to provide this kind of coverage.
Yes, and I couldn't tell you how many hours, Rick, that we've devoted into doing this. It's got to be over 50 hours now.
Oh my God, because we've been on the air every night, just on the broadcast alone, 3.5, 4 hours a night, and then there's all the prep time during the day, staying on top of everything going on. But it's been an honor to do it, and I feel it is making a difference. It's getting the message out there and helping to cut through the misinformation of the legacy media. So thank you, Penelope, for asking. I appreciate that. And if anyone does want to donate, the PayPal link is in the description for the broadcasts on Facebook and on YouTube. So yeah, the foundation of the country is the Constitution, is the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and that's why Brian Peckford and his lawsuit, why that's so important. He's suing the federal government because he's the last surviving signatory, the last surviving author of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which was approved and became part of our law in 1981. And thank God for Brian Peckford, because with him, we may actually have that thing restored properly.
That begs the question, because the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms has basically been a lot of talk, but I don't think I've seen anything come to fruition. Maybe it's just my own ignorance. I just don't know.
And actually, I would disagree. They've been to court. They've won some cases, and they are on the front lines defending people. I think the reason we're not hearing more about the results of court cases is because almost all of them remain before the courts. They haven't been resolved yet. A lot of these cases have not started. People have received tickets for being outside their apartment building, 2 feet from the door, whatever the stupid rule might have been at the time. And the rules kept changing. But those guys at the JCCF, those lawyers, they're the ones who have been defending people, the only ones. And
yes.
And thank goodness for Rebel News for raising money to help those guys, to help fund those legal battles.
Lots of people. We even know some of those people.
Yes, that's right. Some people in our own circle facing major charges fines of up to $100,000 for participating in an outdoor protest, exercising their right to free speech. Liz Valley, right? Charged in Chatham, friend of ours. And yeah, she's facing a potential fine of $100,000 because she was involved in an outdoor protest when the lockdowns were in full swing and people were driving by telling people on the street corner that, well, anyway, we don't need to get into it. Doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't.
Because this is happening now, and the pendulum is swinging back.
You know what? Somebody just wrote an interesting comment there. They're like, "Oh, we need some like real musicians," and they said, "Where is Alice Cooper?" You know what? Where is the establishment, old rebellion, rock and roll? Like Rage Against the Machine is now Rage for the Machine, and all these other bands. It's like, what the hell?
Yeah. Well, as you can see that people are still down there tonight too. It's here we are. It's coming up on close to 8:00 now, and we still have crowds down there. Like, they can bring all the cops they want, but when you have a crowd that size, really, what are they gonna do?
Yeah.
Especially when they're behaving the way they're behaving, which is they're just down there walking around, singing, dancing in the streets, shoveling snow, picking up garbage, taking friends to their, they're taking their friends' food, feeding people on the street for free. What are you going to do? What are you going to do, Justin? What are you going to do?
Well, there is one person who came out for this. Rob Schneider. If you look at his Twitter page, it's like all about freedom and truckers and that sort of thing.
Well, it's the celebrities have been a long time coming around, some of them, but there are some who have been there from the beginning.
Yeah,
Just seeing if I can. I'm going to reach out and see if we can get some current live footage for you guys from Windsor again, just to check in and make sure we know what's going on there. Just give me a moment here, Brendan.
Yeah, I guess Theo Theory is one of them.
Yeah.
2-time Olympic winner. Olympic hockey winner, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
NHL star. But good on Rob Schneider.
I think we have a live feed now out of Windsor.
Beautiful.
Let's switch the feed. Yeah, this is it.
Lots of MJ down here. It smells really good. I know. I used to love Drew too, man. He was.
I think this will last overnight, but I don't think it'll last till Monday.
Very hard to say. I was surprised, Brendan, that it lasted through the night. And as I said, the information that I got was that it just about collapsed this morning when some of the protesters agreed with police that they would leave. Or I guess they were close to agreeing to leave. And then more people showed up and they just backed this up. But you know what? We've been wrong before. And the media this morning and through the day, they were reporting that this protest in Windsor was already over. And that was not true. And that was likely an attempt to discourage people from coming down, right? And it didn't work. People still showed up. But I know that there were many convoys planned for this morning. I know there are more planned for tomorrow morning to go to Windsor again. So,
well, that's the thing, right? It's cold, and the weather last night was absolute crap.
Thank you, Penelope. Greatly appreciate the donation.
The weather last night was absolute crap. Like, I don't know what it would have taken to have gone through that last night. Like, I'm kind of a big softie when it comes to cold, wet weather. I can't handle it. Like, I can hang out in the snow all day, but once it's like around 0 and raining, it's like, get me out of there.
Yeah. It just shows you how determined these people are. It was pouring rain in Ottawa yesterday.
Yeah.
Cold and wet. And yet the people still came out and dealt with this. I was outside for a short time today. I wasn't down to the border today. But man, it's cold. It's cold out there, and these people have been out there for hours. So have those police officers. But it just shows you how determined they are. So my hat goes off to all of them, and I feel for all of them. I feel for those officers, too, who have been standing out there, shuffling back and forth, trying to keep warm, standing in the cold. Man. It's rough. Really, really rough. Clayton says, Maverick, would you like to know why all of this medical bullying is going on? Something the Canadian Security Intelligence Service, quite frankly, laugh at. I'm not sure exactly what that means. I guess I'd like to know a lot of things. Mama Trish says they can't end them immediately because we still have a virus in our country. Case numbers are coming down, hospitalizations and ICU admissions are as well. I think she means the mandates.
Yes. Let's answer that. Because with the NDP, a broken clock could be right twice a day. And they said we need to increase healthcare transfers to provinces to resolve our hospitals. We can no longer let our hospitals rule our lives. No more. All done. That's it. We need the chief medical officer to have some oversight with what they could do, increase hospital capacity, and increase transfers, because this is no longer feasible what we're doing. We can no longer cause mass damage to our society anymore because our hospitals don't know how to handle this stuff.
It's quite clear these measures have not had the effect that they were supposed to. They haven't worked properly. Mm-hmm. Oh, there's Liz. She says her next court date is February 14th.
Oh, happy Valentine's Day.
Yes. What a great way to spend Valentine's Day in court. Although the way things have been going, I wouldn't be surprised if it's just another remand and they set a new date. They just keep dragging that stuff out.
Maybe the government will tell her tell her that they love her.
Well, at some point they might, when she gets elected and she ends up in Ottawa running for the PPC.
Absolutely.
So she won't. The government won't just love her. She'll be part of the government.
Maybe we should invite Liz on and see if she wants to talk.
Yeah, Zen, vaccines do work for polio, but, it's a completely different scenario, isn't it? Because when you get your polio shot, you don't have to get another one 6 months later, and 6 months later, and 6 months later, and 6 months later, and 6 months after that. And it works entirely differently. It's a different kind of thing. It's a different kind of medication. So you're not comparing apples to apples. And that whole argument that these other vaccines work, so why don't you just get this one? There's a lot more to it than that. That's so simplistic that it's actually a dangerous way to think.
It is. At draw the line here. At what shot do you draw the line?
Good question. Second one, third one, sixth one, 10th one, ever?
And
that's right. When
all of these,
yeah, go ahead, Brendan.
all these doctors, although yes, I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving you medical opinion or medical advice. But what I am saying is that it is a known fact that doctors are being silenced by the College of Physicians across the board, and there's lots of things that they are not allowed to talk about. Otherwise, they are at risk of having their license pulled. Do you want doctors that are able to engage on issues across the board? We all know the term about second opinion and that you're allowed to go and get a second opinion. But now if you try and get a second opinion on it, your doctor can get his license pulled by the province and by the federal government. This is not how we operate. This is never how we have operated. And it's not how we should operate going into the future. So there's been political correctness about this. So you have to ask yourself, where do you draw the line? Where? Doctors used to say it was cool to smoke. DDT. What was that product Rick Nichols talked about on the show the other day? What was it?
I don't recall. Was it thalidomide?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, thalidomide.
Tell people what that is.
So that was a drug that was given to women to help them cope with, to pregnant women, to help them cope with morning sickness. And they were told it was perfectly safe, wouldn't have any problems. But after they started to administer it, the women who were taking it were giving birth to babies with severe deformities. Severe deformities, missing hands, arms. And so, you know, we had an entire generation of thalidomide babies and people who had to live their lives after being born with these deformities because of this drug. And it was not adequately tested, even though they told people that it was. That was the story of thalidomide. Well, these vaccines, we don't want to get into it too much here because we don't want to get banned off YouTube, right? But, you know, there's more discussion that needs to happen around all of this.
There's lots of discussion, and just like how we've been doing our politics, we've been doing our medicine where only one narrative is allowed to speak, and that is wrong.
Yeah, I agree with that. It is
Wrong
wrong
on
to
so many
censor
levels.
people. Yeah, it's also not ethical to force someone to take any kind of medicine, vaccine, or submit themselves to any kind of medical procedure against their will, to coerce them, and taking someone's job away from them to encourage them. That's not encouraging. That's coercion. That's forcing. That's not ethical. It's 100% wrong.
In fact, every time we should do a search on the past year and take every time the media or the government said to encourage should be replaced to coerce. Because that's exactly what they've done. Big time.
Yeah, Justin Trudeau has been twisting words every step of the way through this pandemic, twisting the words, using words like encourage when he really means force. We want to encourage vaccinations. No, we're going to force you. That's what he's saying.
Don't
and
think
if you
that
don't
you
get
get
it,
on
you
a
don't
plane
get
or
it.
a train.
Right. We'll just take away all your rights. You won't be able to function in society, but that's your choice. You can either do this and participate in everything in society and have all your privileges that we grant you, or you can not do it and you'll be ostracized, shut out, unable to make a living, won't be able to feed yourself. So but it's a choice. It's your choice. That's what's really going on. And we all know that. And that's why the people are responding the way they are right now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I know I haven't been here too long, but I mean, I have cut out of some obligations here to join you here this evening, so I am going to have to say adieu for now.
Okay.
But I will be back tomorrow.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us, Brendan. It was helpful. I was here, I've been here flying solo, and it was good to have you come in and save me.
All right, everybody. Well, this is the host of the Flow of Discourse podcast and Maverick Multimedia, Maverick News co-host for Trucking to Ottawa 2022, cruising to the capital. It's been great having this talk with you all, and have a good night.
All right. Chat with you later, Brendan. Take care. Brendan's out, and we'll continue just for a short time longer. I'm going to see if I can tap into any of the most recent footage from Windsor for you folks. We'll go back to the live stream from Ottawa, so you can see what's going on there. So this is the party in Ottawa. Look at all the Canadian flags, man. People wrapped up in those Canadian flags, staying warm down near Parliament Hill, dancing to the music. This is what Doug Ford, the Premier of Ontario, describes as the siege of Ottawa. Another war term, where he says, and municipal officials there too, say that these people are terrorizing the citizens of Ottawa, that they've paralyzed the city. Doug Ford says these people have taken millions hostage. He says they're holding the citizens of Ottawa hostage. So this is the footage from down there. So I'll let you draw your own conclusion. Do you think that these people are terrorists? Do you think they're holding the citizens of Ottawa hostage? What's your opinion? What are your thoughts tonight, folks? I agree, Mama Trish. The insults aren't necessary. Neil Young is yesterday, says Julie Bowmaker. Yeah, definitely. Bring up some audio here for you to listen in. Well, I guess we're kind of away from the crowd right now, so we will. I think I've got some new footage out of Windsor. Can't use that. Hang on. There was also another demonstration at Queen's Park today. And I think what we're going to do is go back to this report from Carla. There was another report from her. She's been awesome. This is her most recent stuff, shot just a short time ago. So let's bring up this. Hang on just a second here. Okay, here's Carla. Here's Carla Olson.
All right, so let's just walk down Wellington Street, look at the people, see what's going on. You know,
this is Ottawa.
Just down the street. Sometimes there's like little tents and fires and gatherings, and always finding something kind of neat down there. Yeah, let's go in the front of these, see what these structures are. So I noticed there's a couple of new tents and structures up. I want to find out what they are. Every time I come down here, there's something just a little bit different. So cool.
So the border blockades continue. The border blockade in Windsor continues. The crowd continues to grow there today.
It's just like a little warming tent, I think. I was in here, and they had it set up for kids.
And as you can see from Carla's footage, the crowd grew in Ottawa today as well. More people there now than... It looks like there are more people there this weekend than there were last weekend.
Come on, let's see what it is. Let's check it out.
This is her live feed.
It's cotton candy.
Justin Trudeau says he's still a long way from using the military to quash these protests. But as we saw in Windsor, the police did gain some ground down here on Church today, but we're not successful yet in actually removing the protest from the border. And here, obviously, police not successful in removing the protest in Ottawa.
Just want to get to the line just to see what they're doing.
Cotton candy. This is what Doug Ford, your premier, describes as a siege.
Cotton candy, that's what it is.
Yep.
It's tough to film in here, guys. It's pretty full.
The Siege of Ottawa. The people armed with cotton candy.
Oh, I get stuff.
I'm just filming it. It's so cool, right?
It's amazing. But honestly, this has been like a great boost of morale. So
Here, I'm just going to film you. Go ahead, tell me.
It's been so invigorating to see like all these people getting together again and really like being patriotic and supporting the Canada that like I can be proud of, you know? Where we stand united together. You know? It's such a good vibe.
It is such a good vibe. Where are you from? Montreal. Well, thank you for coming. I'm from Ontario. I'm from Sarnia, which is 6.5 hours south of here. Nice. Yeah. Yeah, this is so great. We needed this.
Yeah, thank you for coming too.
Oh, thank you for coming.
With the gloves.
A little more love spreading
It is so
around there.
crowded in here, guys. But anyway, I just wanted you to see what they're making. It's like the kid tent, and it's warm. There's heat in here, and they're making cotton candy, and everybody wants to be in here. This is beautiful. There's like books and toys and coloring books. It's amazing. I cannot. It's like every day something new comes around. I lost Big Law again.
Red and white everywhere. Flags everywhere.
Oh, there he is. You should have went in there. It's so warm.
I did.
Little fire.
Flags everywhere.
I don't know if you can see it.
Canadian pride. Well, I guess if you were going to have an insurrection and have a country taken over, say have Canada taken over,
Well,
at least
party
it's
for coming
being
along.
taken over by Canadians. But that's the question, right? Are these insurrectionists or patriots?
Jumping castles. Look, they took them yesterday. And they have them. Yes. This is so great, guys. It's like a slide, I think. Oh, it must have been
It
up.
collapsed.
And now it's down.
It collapsed. Yeah, we showed you that earlier. They brought bouncy castles back. Yesterday, we showed you footage that Carla shot of the police moving in and confiscating the bouncy castles as the battle for Ottawa continues.
This is right on the street, guys. Right on Wellington Street, 2 blocks from the square.
You can see, I can see it in my head now. The General Slawley, the police chief of Ottawa, brings in his key advisors. They huddle around a table with a map. They pinpoint the location of the target, the bouncy castles. Send out their troops. They form on the perimeter, make their way in through behind enemy lines, and confiscate the bouncy castles. But today, in an act of extreme defiance, punishable by up to $100,000 and a year in jail, the Patriots returned with their own bouncy castle. It's just ludicrous. The whole thing is just, it just gets weirder and weirder every day.
That way. Hey, excuse me.
Wow. Yeah, I believe the towing company in Windsor that is being used is A&M Towing. Most of the towing companies, if not all, in Ottawa have refused to participate in towing the rigs.
Thank you.
Michael Christian says there are some trolls on here who are beginning to realize they've been lied to by Trudeau. I don't doubt it, Michael. You know, when you're lied to by the media and by the government over and over and over again, and that's the only information you're getting, you have a single perspective. But when you show people raw, unedited footage that contradicts what they've been told and exposes lies for exactly what they are and smear campaigns for what they are, and the truth is staring you right in the face.
You see that? There's a sign that says freedom.
It makes a difference, right? You change minds and win hearts with truth. Not with guns, not with violence, with truth and love. And that's what the people are armed with. That's what they have on their side. That's what the people have on their side. And look at the joy, the happiness, the smiles, the camaraderie, the national pride. Canadians fighting for Canada. Canadians fighting for their rights. Canadians fighting to restore the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Canadians fighting for freedom. For you, for me, for everyone. Every one of them down there tonight, a hero. This is a national moment, folks. This is history in the making. It's been thus for the past 2 weeks. More than 2 weeks. The truckers have united the country, and it have inspired a freedom movement that has spread worldwide. Canadian truckers, backed up by farmers, everyday working people, everyday Canadians from all walks of life coming together in unity, in love, and here's my favorite reporter ever. Carla joins us.
Oh, look at there's downtown Ottawa.
Yes.
Day to you. Happy birthday.
Yeah, it was the guys.
Oh my God, they're singing "Happy Birthday." Does Doug Ford have a law against that one?
No. It was some guy that was there. He said it was his dad's birthday, and he couldn't see him, so because he chose to be here, so he got the crowd to sing. But this guys is not at the square. This is just in the street on Wellington Street, very far from the main section. This is the amount of people.
It's huge.
It's packed.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Here we had the Prime Minister, we had the Premier of Ontario. They're trying to scare people and don't come. Don't bring your children. They could be gassed to death by our goons. Don't bring them. The truckers are dangerous. Danger, Will Robinson. Very, very dangerous truckers, racists, Nazis, fascists. Stay away. And the people are like, screw you bunch of freaking liars. Get your Canadian flags. Party!
So they all came. I think that actually made people so angry with his threats that they thought, I'm coming. I mean, I think he shot himself in the foot because it brought a bigger crowd.
You're right.
That's amazing, right? Oh, today was great there. I mean, look at this. Look at these people.
And what's the temperature? It's like mine is, the colder it gets, the more fun they have.
This morning when I went out about 9:30, if you look at the footage from there, it was like snowing sideways, right? Because it was so windy. I could barely hold my camera still. My face was frozen. I was frozen. I thought, I can't even do this. How am I going to do this? And then, it got a little bit better, but man, it was cold. They were under some kind of environmental cold warning, and the people, they're still there. I had to come home. I couldn't. I thought I was frostbitten in my toes and fingers.
Oh, it's so Canadian. It's such a Canadian story, right? The whole thing.
I know.
And it's so bizarre. Like some of the bizarre aspects of this just blow my mind. Like the whole bouncy castle thing and the confiscation of it. And then you just showed that, they brought another one back.
They brought one back.
It's like, screw you. We're bringing our own bouncy castle then. We're bringing another one.
Yeah, they had it deflated by the time I got to it. And I died.
And then what are the cops going to do? It's like, okay, that's it. We caught you carrying that bouncy castle. You're aiding and abetting the enemy. With that bouncy castle. Like, come on.
What are they going to do? Take the bouncy castle? Kids, get off the bouncy castle. We want to take it. Did you see that? No. They'd be holding
it's so stupid. And
it is so great.
Oh, man.
I just can't. It just gets bigger and better. And more of a celebration. I mean, I've named this. I call it now. This is a city within Ottawa called Fringe City.
That's great.
I've named
That's great.
It's Fringe City.
I now have an image in my head of like Doug Ford and Justin Trudeau coming down there, and they're standing in the crowd and they're going, "Stop it! Stop it! Stop it!"
I know. Isn't it
Guys!
fantastic? I ran into so many people who've never been. I mean, this is the third weekend, right? It's crazy. It started on a weekend, and this is the third one. So we're going into our third week, and so we're already past the 2 weeks to flatten the curve, right? Flatten the tyranny. And so we decided we were going to, the organizer said we're going to follow the same reasoning, the same flatten the curve that the government did. So if we're prepared to stay for over 2 years to flatten the
It's okay.
tyranny.
There you go.
But
Yeah.
and people are just coming for the first time. I spoke to some people and they're just blown away, like weeping. People are sobbing by the joy, like joyfully sobbing, and they're just so blown away by the attention. Look at that flag.
Huge.
It's huge. I don't even know how he's holding it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And the CTV thing with the X through it is just.
There's so many things.
Oh man, the tide has certainly turned, hasn't it?
I mean, yeah, and I mean, this is just going on. Like I've got people hitting my messenger, going, "How long are you staying?" I'm like, "Until it's done." I think I'm gonna need to rent an apartment.
Oh, yeah. Well, we started the fundraising thing for you tonight. There's a link in the description. I don't know how much people have donated. It might be 10 cents. It might be $10. I don't know, but however much it was, I'll have a list afterward of people who send you money.
Nice.
We're getting something for you.
It's just been crazy. I mean, food is not even a problem. I mean, as you can see, I have free restaurant after restaurant
That's
after
right.
restaurant. I mean,
Free food on the streets.
Like, and it's beyond street meat. I told you, they're serving up some gourmet stuff.
Yeah, but you're still. I mean, the hotels are expensive.
Oh
right?
yeah, and the data, yeah. But it's outrageous. Like,
oh man, yeah, the cell phone data in Canada is, I think, among the most expensive in the world. So yes,
yeah. I just can't, and no, I didn't see an influx in police officer. In fact, there were so many people that I could barely see the police.
That's awesome.
I know.
And it's just, this whole narrative of like all the, what's that say? I thought that said white, but it says unite. I thought that might be our first racist sign. No, it doesn't say white. It says unite.
Yeah, unite.
Yeah, unite. That's what we're seeing down there, folks. It's just,
And the French, so much enthusiasm from the French. I mean, because let's face it, in Quebec, it's bad there. You can't even go into a Walmart or a Costco or anything. You can buy groceries in a grocery store and you can go to a pharmacy. That is it. That is all. And I think the odd like clothing store, like the small clothing stores, but anything that is larger, like big box stores, they can't go in.
Yeah. The Quebec has been just brutal on their people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brutal.
The premier there. Oh my.
Oh. He's no joke.
Yeah. Curfews.
Yeah.
Like, I don't stupid. I don't even get how that's supposed to. How does that help anything?
They can't go to liquor stores, cannabis stores. They can't do any of that. I mean, bootleggers must be making big money in Quebec.
Yeah.
Remember the old school bootlegger?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. And I mean, and then that vaccine tax, right? Like that was crazy. That was absolute insanity.
Yeah. But don't forget Doug Ford. He was ready to start pulling people over, randomly, having cops just pull people over randomly and ask them for their papers.
Yeah.
Right. And the police chiefs had to kind of push back and go, well, I don't know if we really want to do that. But that was all. He was ready to implement that. He's pretty heavy-handed too.
I don't know. The police, I don't know where the shift was, but they didn't have a problem kicking the bouncing castle last night. So I don't know where that shift went.
Oh, man. If everything about this has been Orwellian, except for the bouncy castle stuff, and now all this pushback from the people. It's like they've lifted this whole film of just gray haze off our country, just peeled it back, and there's this huge neon red and white burst of light that's shining through, and everybody's happy and full of light again. It's just,
it is. The spirit is very light, just like you said. You can't, and even my husband was saying, coming here, I mean, he just can't get over it. He comes on the weekend, and he said, he also mentioned, remember we were talking last night about the emotions, it can be emotional, like tonight we were walking down the street trying to get some food, and he was, like in a restaurant, and he got very emotional when he saw a child holding a flag yelling freedom. This kid was like 6 years old, and it just choked him, right?
Yeah.
And so he said there is that whole emotion thing too, but he just said it's just so beautiful.
Well, you know what?
This one, what's that say? Something my body, my temple. But then there's like these signs too kill me.
Fully
right?
immunized against tyranny.
That was the best one. That was a good one.
And that 6-year-old waving the Canadian flag, there's been a lot of concern. I've been concerned that we will have a generation growing up not knowing freedom, right?
Yeah.
But being exposed to this movement, seeing what this is and how it's being handled, seeing that people are fighting back by being completely peaceful, by being happy and combating authoritarian use of force, and with guns, backed up by guns and cops, right? Meeting that with love, and seeing how people are fighting for freedom, maybe this generation might grow up having an even greater appreciation for it than we do.
Well, because they'll know that we almost lost it, right? Or I mean, and I think that this generation, because I think it'll benefit them that they've seen enough of it and had such a loss of freedom. They understand what it's like. They'll be able to smell it if it starts to happen again, and they'll be able to stop it. They won't wait 2 years like our generation did.
But it's not over yet, not by a long shot.
Well, no, I hear things are getting pretty terrible at the Windsor, at the Ambassador Bridge, huh?
Yeah, cops are pushing. They gained a bunch of ground. It's a standoff there still. We've been going back to the occasional live feed out of there. I don't know if they'll be able to hold it through the night. It depends on how many people they have.
Now, I heard they were there at 6 o'clock this morning, so I think our assumptions were correct, Rick. You and I talked about that. We thought they would come like a thief in the night, right?
Yeah.
And
they tried. They tried. And what happened was, I guess they had sort of a loose agreement where the protesters were just about ready to pack it in and leave, saying that if the mandates were lifted within a couple of days, they would return in greater numbers, but they were agreeing to leave today. But then more and more people started to show up, and the reinforcements just refortified what they were doing, and the love started to spread some more. And the next thing you know, they were like, no, we're not leaving. We're going to stay. So the cops managed to push them back about 100 meters, gained that ground. Some vehicles were moved, but then both sides are just dug in again. And that's the way it's been through the night so far.
Okay.
So we'll see what happens.
But they're still holding the line and standing.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Amazing. Like, I just can't believe it.
Like, this thing, it's going to spread. Whether our government wants it to, whether the police want it to, it's going to spread. It already has spread. I got a message from one of the people who've been viewing my lives all the way from Israel. Shocked me. She's from Israel. I don't know how, probably through sharing. She's seen my lives, and she said how inspiring they were. And she said, listen, Canada is inspiring the world. She said, we are starting a convoy in Israel on Monday.
In Israel.
Israel.
Yes.
She said, it's going to be big. And I said, this is amazing. And we talked about it. And she said, and I said, thank you so much for standing. She said, it's going to be a little tougher for us in Israel. She said, our police aren't as nice, aren't as kind as your police.
Yeah.
They're a little bit harsher. And she's right. So let me tell you, like, hats off to Israel, because I think it would be a lot more difficult in Israel. They don't, I mean, their police are brutal.
Yeah. Yeah. And, they're on their fourth shot now, I think, right?
They sure are. They're the highest vaccinated, I think. I like this flag here. See that Canadian and American.
That's interesting. Yeah. I've never
it's
seen
like
that
a blend of the Canadian American. It's showing unity between Canada and the U.S. is what I'm assuming when I look at it.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, you're right, man. Like, it is spreading around the world, and we're seeing it in the comments here. We have people watching from all over the world, these broadcasts we're doing. The numbers we're pulling, it's pretty incredible. And that's very encouraging to me, inspirational for me. It makes me want to get up in the morning and do these, because I know that what we're doing is spreading this information, this truth, this unedited, uncensored footage
right,
all over the world. And as a result, you know, the word is getting out, right?
And it's a beautiful message. It's a message of unity and love and patriotism. I mean, who doesn't want to spread this?
Yeah. Oh,
You
there's, yeah. Louise says occupation is what Doug Fort. Yeah, I know occupation. He's calling this a siege,
Which is,
right?
I think, worse than occupation.
Oh, it is. It is. That's like
it's more severe.
Yeah, absolutely. The siege of Ottawa. Like, you know, if he's right, then that would go down in the history books as being like some war story where like Ottawa was overtaken by these terrorists. And, you know, this whole thing, like, look at these people with the cotton candy and the bouncy castles and the free food on the streets and the music and the dancing. And these are the people that are supposed to be terrorizing the citizens of Ottawa, holding 1 million people in Ottawa hostage.
Yeah. How did you take over? How did you take over? With joy?
Yeah.
With love? With empathy? With hugs?
Look at, yeah, they're all harassing the people. Right.
It's terrible. Terrible, shameful.
But just their narrative, it just, every day the lie just crumbles more in the face of truth.
I'd like to just go back to what I said a few days ago, how shocked I was that, you know, I felt that the very first thing this government would have come out with would have been, you know, oh my goodness, we can't have these people coming. They won't be social distancing. They won't be wearing masks. This is going to be a super spreading event. They are going to overwhelm our hospitals because, as we know, the majority of these people are more than likely unvaccinated. Therefore, and if the narrative is correct, the unvaccinated get much sicker and are in the ICUs and are hospitalized with COVID-19. Not a word.
Not one.
And not one sick person.
Yep.
I think COVID's done.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we've all had it. I think everybody's had it who's going to get it at this point. I think we know it's an endemic, you know.
Yeah.
Sure.
The whole thing now, it's
not
just.
One word about that. That's what's really blown my mind.
Yes. And if anything has been flattened, it's the fear. The fear has been flattened. You can see it here tonight in this footage that you shot.
In every way. I mean, I've interviewed many people who are there, and one of the questions I always ask them is like, you know, I'm sure you've heard about the rumors that we could be fined up to $100,000. We could and potentially go to prison. You know, not jail, prison for up to 1 year. How do you feel about that? The you know, just the risk of being arrested. And every single one of them said, I don't care, I'm standing.
Yeah.
Not one of them said, I'm worried about losing my job. Not one of them said, because you know what? We're done with those scare tactics. Everyone who was going to lose their job already lost their job. You know, I mean,
yeah.
I don't know.
The $100,000 has always seemed to be like the, it's always $100,000. Like from the beginning, a lot, like the most severe fine. Like if you have a party with more than 10 people on New Year's Eve, we'll fine you $100,000. And they did, right? Like I remember, like many people fined, like Liz Valley, here locally.
Right.
She's facing a potential fine of $100,000 if she's convicted in court because she was at a protest. It's always $100,000. I don't know where they come up with that number, but
well, and you know, the majority of the people that I spoke to said, you know, if I am fined that, I'm not paying it. I'll fight it, and I'm still not paying it. I mean, I think this government's going to be lucky to get taxes from all of their citizens this year.
Yeah.
You know, they're saying, you know, I can't access any public things like, you know, they can barely access healthcare. They can't go into their doctor's office anymore. It has to be on the telephone, which they feel is pretty shoddy care. You know, there's so many things they can't do. They can't access many government things. I can't access unemployment. You know, anyone who is on social services, if they're not vaccinated, they can't have it. There's just so many things. We can't go to public arenas. We can't go to, you know, anything that's funded by the government. We can't attend. So many people don't want to pay their taxes this year. And, you know, that's something they should definitely think about.
Yeah. Dancing Sexy Man says AMPM Towing. That is the name of the company that has gone down there to tow in Windsor for the cops. And so, of course, there are calls out there to boycott that company forever.
Well,
some people are happy about it. So that's the name of the company for those who want to know.
Well, I think that unfortunately that's where the division's going to continue, right? But people aren't going to forget who sided with the government on this and who was, part of the division. Like I probably won't forget the restaurants that wouldn't allow me to sit in.
Yeah.
Probably won't support them ever again, even when this ends. I
You know,
probably won't because they had a choice.
I personally, I won't go through a drive-through at a fast food restaurant if they don't let unvaccinated people go in, right? So I won't even go to a McDonald's. I won't go to I have not been since all this started.
It's been nice to go to the Tim Hortons here because they're serving us inside. So, you can feel very good about going there.
Yeah. Segregation is so wrong, and yet Justin Trudeau loves it so much.
He does.
It
was interesting.
What else did you see down there today?
Just what I've been showing. Like, it was very difficult to see a lot because it was a sea of people, literally. And I'm not very tall, and I do have a tendency to like to get right into the crowd because I think that that's where the action is. If you get into the middle of the crowd, you can really see what's happening. I saw a lot of dancing, a lot of joy, a lot of hugging. Just that same environment of unity and patriotism. And then I was just so excited to see the jumping castles back.
Yeah. Are there more businesses open now? Or?
That was something I was going to mention. So the businesses, there were a few more that opened over this past week, and but nothing else since. In fact, I did see some close on Saturday and Sunday. However, I don't think that's abnormal for the business district, like for the downtown area, because this is a business district. So, but we did find a few restaurants that are down on Bank Street, just down from Wellington, like past, like I'm on Slater. I don't know if it's south or north, south, or east or west, right? I don't know the directions this way, but just a few blocks from my hotel on Bank Street, there were a few restaurants open. There's a Korean joint that was open, a Korean barbecue joint that was serving. It does takeout. There was this this Vietnamese restaurant that specialized in pho, and they were serving all of us inside the restaurant, but it was like an hour and a half wait. I mean, this place was packed. Then there was a ramen joint that was open, and so my husband and I were like, oh, this is looking pretty good. I think we'll go in here. Went in. She wanted to know where my mask was, and I said, do I need a mask to be in here? She goes, well, do you have the QR code? And I'm like, I don't need to eat here. So I left. That place had two tables out of their whole restaurant. Yet the place 2 doors down, was jam-packed with people lined up out the door because they weren't segregating. So I think that that's a lesson for the little ramen place, right?
Right.
And there's an Indian restaurant that actually sold out of food, and they were letting people sit in too.
Bev Stewart wants to know where to donate. The description is in the link rather is in the description on the YouTube channels and on the Facebook posts. So just click on that link, and that'll take you to the PayPal page where you can donate to help cover the costs of providing this coverage and to help out Carla because she's been down there absorbing the expenses of all the expense for being there. So yeah, anybody that does that, thank you. Anyone that has, thank you so much.
Yeah, you guys have no idea what a blessing it is. I mean, it's so great to be down here, and I feel like what I'm doing is important. I mean, there have been so many people that have reached out to me on my in Messenger, because a lot of them are just brand new Facebook friends, or sometimes they're just following my page, just following along because it's fairly public, and just saying that they had no idea. They've been following the media. They've been, just to see what was happening there. So I think it's changing lives. I think people are starting to understand, and I think people are becoming more free too, and understanding also that they're not alone. So it's been really, really good. I feel really, I'm really grateful for the opportunity to be here, and any support is lovely. I mean, I can't say thanks enough.
Yeah, well, I'm going to find that link. I will, for tomorrow, I will get an actual web page up with a proper URL, so it's easy for people to find that. I did this just quickly tonight, but I will post the link right here in the comments section and put that up. Because as I said before, we really haven't monetized the channels or anything like that. There's been no other attempt to try to generate any kind of revenue from this. But I know that it's just so expensive for you to be there.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
let me see if I can bring that up.
I'll tell you one good thing though. I am putting in steps on steps on steps, like 25,000 steps a day. That's pretty fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, and you want to make those steps because it's cold. You want to keep moving, you know. So
Yeah. So that's the link. That's a really long, super long link. Like nobody's going to remember that.
can you copy it?
Yeah, I can. I've got it copied.
No, but I mean, can the people? Can they get in there?
I don't think they
copy
can get that off the screen though. I'm not sure. It depends on, I guess, how they're seeing their comments on their screen, whether they can copy it or not. But I will get it set up so it's better for tomorrow, and I'll get a URL set up so that it's just easy for people to remember, like helpcarla.com or something, right? And then we'll have it take people directly to the donation page. Simple as that.
That's awfully nice of you, Rick. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, well, we got to do something because we just can't have you doing that. It's too much. Just too much for one person. And so again, thank you to everybody who's chipping in. Greatly appreciated. Yeah. So what do you think? Are we winning? Are they winning?
Well, I mean, you know, and that's another thing. When you talk to people, that what they say, because I've asked that same question to people and they said, we've already won. And, you know, it's true. They've already won. Justin Trudeau decides to come in, you know, add more draconian measures, add more of everything. If he wants to take us to camps, we've still already won because we've already proven that, A, we're not a fringe minority, that we are not alone, and that we do stand together. I don't know if we're going to win today, tomorrow, next week, next year, but I think we've won.
Yeah, I think that you're right. Even if they take that blockade at the border down tonight or tomorrow or whenever, and they will eventually, you know, this whole thing eventually will come to an end. But regardless, even now, you're right. There have been many victories, and just by showing up, these people have won because, you know, they really have.
They have.
Canada
We definitely made a great statement to the government. I think the government can only learn a lesson from this. I think we've shown them that they work for us, that we don't work for them. And at the same time, we've shown them our resiliency. Like, sure, shut the deal down shut down the protest at the Ambassador Bridge, shut it down at Lambton, you know, in Sarnia, Lambton, shut it down in Ottawa. It doesn't matter because there are how many cities, little communities and cities are there throughout this massive country? They're just going to set it up. They're just going to, you know, pop up somewhere else.
Yeah.
What's that game that people play where you pop the one thing down and then the other thing comes up?
Whack-a-mole.
Yeah.
Whack-a-mole, yeah.
It's a big game of whack-a-mole if they try to shut them down.
Yeah, well, you're seeing it like because today there were demonstrations at the Manitoba legislature. You've still got that demonstration going on out in Alberta. There was another one again in Toronto today that I saw some images from. There's the Sarnia border. There's people were heading off to Niagara. I understand. So there must be something forming up there at the Buffalo border.
Sure.
You know, I don't know what's happened there, but there's something going on. You know, it's all over the place. It's all over.
Yeah. And you know what's interesting too? I have quite a bit of support from Americans. The Americans are starting to, I mean, look at Fox News, the way they're covering it. The Americans are starting to really push free Canada, free Canada, free Canada. We have the support of the Americans. And I think, you know, I don't know. I think we've just already won. I just feel like we're going to get their support. What if we get some political support from the Americans? We've already had DeSantis, you know, comment on the whole GoFundMe fiasco, you know, so. I don't know.
And that's exactly what that has been, a fiasco.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, an absolute.
How can that be even legal? I mean, that's why they're trying to paint everyone with the brush of being a terrorist, right? To justify all these militaristic war type measures that they're taking.
Yeah. It's just so out in the open now. There's just no You know, and for everyone who sees it, even if they see a glimpse, there's no unseeing it. So, you know, and that's what people are saying. It's once I saw it, you know, I couldn't unsee it. And then they just saw more and more and more. So I think it's game over, JT.
Yeah.
You know, the video games will say game over, and then it does this
the music
thing. I feel
plays,
like that's that kind of sad music. I feel like he's listening to some music right now.
I hope that it's more than just game over for this, though. I hope that this really shows more people why they need to take charge of where they're getting their information from more, right? Take more responsibility for that and stop just trusting what they're being told about everything.
And I think that many people are waking up to the mainstream media, right? That's been something, because a lot of the people who've been viewing my lives are like, wow, your lives are absolutely opposite of mainstream media. They know that I'm an amateur. They know that I don't have any way of changing things to look, you know, a certain way. They know that I have no knowledge. They know it's raw. It's me walking in the streets, literally taking people for walks all day long. That's
you know what though, Carla? Like over 25 years I worked at CTV. And that's why your stuff is so good. That's why it is, to me, it feels very professional. You ask intelligent questions, you ask the right questions. You're not asking questions from like a particular to get them to trying to get them to say something.
Right.
You're just asking regular questions, having conversations with people, and you're getting real emotion, real feedback, real information back. It's real. And it is mostly unedited, right? And
I don't edit anything. I
you know,
wish there's some things I wish I could edit, like when I got a little emotional with the you know, when I found out that the police were not being mandated, I was a little emotional. I wish I could edit some of the things that I say.
Yeah, but that's why it's so valuable to people, because I know that when these other reporters today, when they go out into the field, they get their assignment in the morning, and the editorial desk, they pick these stories, they hand pick the stories, and in the editorial meetings, they'll have a discussion and they kind of shape how that story is going to be told, even before they get out there.
Based on what they think the readers want.
Yeah, it's sort of like taking the same approach to if you ever in university studied literature and you want to say analyze a novel, but you're going to analyze it from a particular point of view, a particular worldview or ideology. We're going to, say we're going to analyze this book from a Christian feminist point of view. Right. And everything will be analyzed through that lens. And that's kind of what they do with all these stories, so that everything fits into a certain narrative, a certain ideology, and the way they tell the story backs that up or promotes that. Right. But not your stuff. That's why it's so valuable to people.
Honestly, my goal in taking people for walks is I feel like I wish everyone could be here. I wish everyone, and I know that not everyone can. So if they're walking alongside of me, they're seeing what I'm seeing. They can choose to view it, through their own lens. And that's the thing. And isn't that what journalism really should be?
Yes.
It should just be the truth presented, and everyone can view it through their own lens. Put it through their own filter. And, of course, I'm commenting on how I'm feeling when I'm seeing it, but because, and I do use the word feeling because this is an emotional thing.
Yes, but that's fair. But that's fair because you're not hiding it. You're not trying to present yourself as being completely impartial. You're acknowledging that you bring a particular worldview and your own bias to this. But you're really not leading people, and you're not there with a particular agenda other than to just show people the footage.
Yeah, and see what you think, what you want.
Here it is. Here are the signs that are on these trucks. Here's this footage over here. It's not like you went out and you wanted to find that one shot. I mean, of the guy with a Nazi flag, right?
Oh, I've been looking for that. Believe me, I'm going to win that $60,000. That's why I'm looking for that. I want that money.
But see, you weren't out there looking for it so that you could use it to smear. You were out there looking for it because you wanted to see if it was true.
I just want the truth. That's what I want. Hey, listen, you know what? If at the end of the day, I find out that everything that I've thought was wrong and I was wrong, you know what? I'm just glad I found out the truth.
Right.
And that's all I want. I'm just speaking the truth.
And if
I don't
all
wanna
these
be lied
truckers,
to.
if all these truckers were full of hate and and really this was not what we're seeing, I wouldn't want to be any part of it either.
No, and I wouldn't. And if that is what I saw, I would tell people that this is what I'm seeing. So those of you who were thinking the way I was thinking, I would want to protect them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I just want people to see what's there. And, you know, I'm sad for the Liberal government that I'm not showing what they want me to show, but I have to show what I see. And again, I'm letting people see it through their own lens too. I'm just presenting it in a very raw way with my older iPhone and fumbling with my little microphone. So sometimes you can hear my interviews and sometimes you can't. I mean, I'm learning as I go.
Well, before we kind of wrap it up tonight, I am going to see if I can just tap into some footage from some people we know down there at the Windsor-Detroit border.
I'd
See
love
if
to
there's
see that.
anything, what the latest is, if we can find something. As the nights get, start to get into the later hours, it becomes increasingly difficult for us to find some of this footage. But let me see if anybody we know is still down there. What do you have planned for tomorrow?
Me? Very much the same. I was up pretty late last night, so I struggled a little this morning to get up and get moving, although I did get out there early. I'm going to get to bed early tonight, and I want to try and get up very early and maybe I'd like to just be on Wellington by, I don't know, it's closer to 8 o'clock in the morning so I can see just how many people are there at that time, and I want to see the crowd flow in. You know, I like seeing that, where it's like I take one walk down one side and then I come back and suddenly it's full. I know that there are so many people, more people even coming tomorrow and planning to stay Sunday through Tuesday. So because they had trouble booking hotels, so it's going to be interesting as the people who were here for the weekend check out, more are coming in.
Yeah. So are people still able to find places to stay up there, or is the city pretty much booked up?
The city's booked up. Like they're very booked, but on the weekends, it's a little, so far so good. It's been easier through the week, but people are not afraid to stay. You know, they're staying a half an hour out of town. Some are staying in Kingston and just driving in for the day. One thing I did, I talked to a lot of people. They're just driving in and just parking on these side streets and just keeping that one emergency lane open. So they're basically coming into the city and just joining the convoy sort of and just pulling in any old place they can and getting parking tickets. One guy told me he has over $500 in parking tickets from the last couple of days. And I said, well, like there's a parking garage right across the street from this hotel where I was standing talking to him. I said, I mean, it's on the weekends, it's $5 a day or it's $22 a day. He goes, yeah, I'd rather just park my car in the street, be a nuisance. And I'm like, okay.
So here's some footage right now from the Windsor-Detroit border at the Ambassador Bridge. As you can see, the standoff continues. Hopefully we kind of get a...
So the police all in their cars? Is that what's happening there?
Well, it looks like we've got more cruisers down there. Yeah. That's further up the highway. Like the McDonald's is closer down toward the bridge. So this is further up Tecumseh Road. So I'm not sure what's going on here right now. It looks like another line of people. I'm not sure.
It's a good show of people.
Oh yeah, I need a better perspective on this to see exactly where we are or what we're looking at here. But see the McDonald's sign? That's right.
I know that McDonald's. Yeah.
Anybody who's been to the Ambassador Bridge knows that McDonald's.
Yeah.
And this is further up here on Church.
And so so you said they've had a standoff and they've done some pushing back. Like I'm completely ignorant to everything that's going on there. So I look forward to coming on here at night so that I can catch up.
Yeah. Yeah. So down closer to the bridge, police were kind of pushing. They'd like take a few steps, rest, right? Take a few more steps and just gain ground over time.
Okay.
Slowly claiming the ground.
And they're standing, are they standing in a row and kind of physically like
Yes.
doing,
Yep.
oh,
Yep.
sort
and
of
then
the
they
way
just
we were
stand there.
pushing the police back, singing "O Canada" yesterday.
Yeah, well, the people would sing "O Canada" there as well in Windsor. They would just break out into song that way.
I love that.
Yeah.
You know what I love is when they break out in a song and then the whole group are singing it at their, like singing their guts out with their hand over their heart. I love it.
Yeah. So I did hear that some people had moved further down here on Church Road, and I heard talk of maybe another sort of line or blockade being opened up on the other side of the cops, and that might be what we're looking at right here, where they've kind of now they've got the cops maybe sandwiched. And I don't know. I'm just trying to get some perspective on this.
So where are all these trucks on the American side? Are they just backed right up trying to get across the border?
Apparently they're backed up, and I've received information that some of those guys who were trapped in their trucks, people on the U.S. side were bringing them food to their trucks and things like that because they were sort of stranded there, right?
I've had American friends ask me to try and get a hold of Canadian flags and get them sent to them because they'd like to fly some Canadian flags over on that side.
Yeah.
So Canada's definitely been impacted, made an impact throughout the world.
Yeah,
Definitely.
and yeah, absolutely. But I saw an interview with Michigan's governor, Gretchen Whitmer, today, and no sympathy for the truckers from her. She just wants that border reopened.
Well, I mean, it's money, right? They're looking at money because that's going both ways. I mean, actually, although Ottawa has been this ginormous festival, seizure, occupation, whatever they want to call it, this is costing a lot more money.
Oh, yes.
And this is where Doug Ford's focusing.
Oh, absolutely. And from the beginning, I've known that you want to pinch the government. You want them to feel it. This is how you do that. What's happening in Ottawa is more symbolic than anything else.
That's right. That's right. We're just we're sending a message that I think we just put Ottawa on display for the world. For every single country in the world, we've kind of made a mockery of our government or exposed our government. Whereas this is more of this is making an impact financially. This is where they're going to focus.
Oh yeah. Yeah. They want this thing shut down.
I'm very, very proud of the citizens that are standing in Windsor and in Sarnia.
It takes a lot of courage. And today we saw veterans form a line across the road and stand between police and the protesters to protect the protesters.
That's beautiful.
Veterans.
Yeah, that was sort of the message I heard from a lot of veterans that were in Ottawa, is that they were here to protect the people.
If you want to watch some of Carla's live stream stuff during the day, you can find her on Facebook just by typing in Carla Olson.
OLSON.
SON. And you can find her reports on there. All of her awesome, super fantastic, extremely professional reports.
Yeah, it'd be great. Yeah, have a look at them, share them, get that message out there. This is what a great time to be alive, to be honest. I mean, for 2 years, weren't we just I was waking up every day saying, wow, it's still happening. I'm living this nightmare all over again. I was hoping it went away. But now I feel like I wake up every day optimistic going, this is a great time to be alive. We're making history. All of us, every single one of us.
See those cement barriers? The cops moved those in sometime this afternoon, I believe. And so now you have the people standing on that side of the barrier. So I'm thinking these people are probably showing up and probably wanted to get down there. Let me just see here what this says here. I got a message coming in from someone. They might be able to shed some light on this. It says they are closer to the border. Main protest is compacted in. Police are not letting people into the protest area, even from side streets. That's right. Because of because of that, a new protest is springing up on the backside of the police position, which is what I thought was going on. That's what I thought we were looking
I
at.
love Canadians.
Oh, this is so
love Canadians.
creative. Yeah.
It
So
is.
now they've blocked in the police, which is what we saw happen in Alberta as well on the highway leading to the U.S. border.
This
Right.
is reminding me of that board game Risk. I like it.
So now the cops can't go anywhere. They can't get out. That's funny.
I love it.
Sorry, police. I mean, I'm sorry, but I'm not so sorry.
Well, I mean, they're the ones with the guns, not the Canadians. So.
Oh, here's a good comment. I love this one. Hang on, let me see if I can. There it is. The police are surrounded. Don't come out. You're surrounded.
So they surround the protesters, stop letting the protesters in, so the protesters surround them on the other side. So what are we going to have in every other line?
Yeah, I guess so.
This is great.
Oh man, maybe it's just time for the government to take the loss,
or at least negotiate.
Yes. All they have to do is just come. That's right. All they have to do is come out and say, "Okay, guys, let's talk."
Maybe we should send the Ottawa police to steal the fuel for Doug Ford's snowmobile so that he can come back and negotiate.
Yeah.
Isn't he snowmobiling somewhere? That's what I heard. He's on vacation snowmobiling.
Oh, he was last weekend as the siege of Ottawa began to unfold. He went snowmobiling because it's such a threat. And I think Justin Trudeau went skiing. Because he was, I guess, when your country is under siege and you've lost the capital city to the enemy, right? They've taken over your capital. What do? You go snowmobiling,
skiing.
It's so freaking stupid. It's just like how dumb does he think people are? I guess he thinks
exactly.
Oh, come on. The whole story is just the siege of Ottawa. So this is really, think about it. This is his story. Bunch of white supremacist, fascist, Nazi trucker dudes.
With their children.
Came to Ottawa and convinced brainwashed a bunch of other fascist, Nazi, white people to come there with them, to take over the city with bouncy castles and cotton candy. Tents where they serve cotton candy.
That cotton candy was the best thing. They have what are they? They're like a quantum hut, right?
Right.
Set up, and then they've got a heater in there. It is the warmest place in the world. Like you walk in there and you're blasted with heat, and they're making cotton candy, and there's tables all around. I couldn't really get a good picture of it because there were so many people. They've got coloring books and crayons and little puzzles and activities for these kids on these tables all the way around. And then parents standing around socializing while the kids are eating cotton candy. And they had all kinds of other little candies you could get to.
So the trucks came rolling in with swastikas painted all over their trucks, flying Nazi flags. And I mean, it just gets more and more stupid, right?
Oh, it really
it's
does.
dumber and dumber and dumber. And anyone that believes that crap, then they went and stole food from the homeless and beat people up at the shelter. And then they went over and desecrated the war memorial. And then they went over and dishonored the Terry Fox thing, desecrated that statue. And what else were they supposed to have done?
Well, we're presenting hate speech all over the place.
Oh yeah. It's just laced with hate. Everything you're saying.
The Ottawa citizens are terrified of us.
Yeah, because you're terrorizing them.
Yes.
And you've taken 1 million people hostage.
Yes.
You're holding them all hostage. Yeah. And now the entire city is under siege by the racist Nazi truckers who got reinforcements from the racist Nazi farmers.
There were a show of bikers today.
Oh,
the
are there?
bikers are coming. Oh yeah, the bikers are coming too.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, if we had a dry spell, where we were guaranteed no snow, they'd come with their Harleys. They would come with their bikes.
Yeah.
I know it.
Well, that previous comment, no, nobody wants to harm any police officers. And it's been pretty clear from the beginning that the whole strategy on behalf of the people and the protesters is if cops move in and start to make arrests, they're just going to go. They won't resist. They just won't resist.
Right. The plan is, and that again is another question I've been asking people. Their plan is to stand in place, show their ID, put their hands behind their back and say, okay, and go with it and accept it.
Right.
Because we know that the charges can't stick.
Yeah. And what else are you going to do? Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Because the whole tone is we want everything to happen to go down as peacefully as we can possibly. I mean, if they do a massive arrest, I don't know. I can't promise that there aren't going to be some people that will resist.
Yeah.
You know, but the majority, it's not going to go down the way that they're hoping it will. And I think that the government's aware of that. I think they know. They have intel. They have people who are telling them what's going on, what we're saying, what we're doing.
Yeah. Shirley says, anytime you don't take a knee to the true fascists like Trudeau, they start calling names like petulant children. Trudeau is just self-reflecting. It's true. It's like that's all they have anymore, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It's all they have. Just insults and smears and you racist.
Well, look, we learned all of this in kindergarten, right? Yeah. Not to respond to someone who's name calling, just to, turn the other cheek. We learned this in kindergarten, and that's exactly what we're doing.
Yes.
Yeah. We aren't gonna fight fire with fire. We're just going to kill them with kindness. That's the whole thing.
That's why the freedom-loving Canadians are winning, and have already won.
The good guy doesn't always finish last.
Yeah.
You know,
the politicians just haven't figured that out yet.
Yeah,
they're about to.
Yeah.
Well, Carla, it is now 9:05.
Wow.
And
I came late. I'm sorry I kept you 5 minutes late there.
That's okay. I was panicking a little bit tonight because Brendan wasn't going to come on. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm all by myself. People won't want to listen to me ramble, right?
And so it was the Rick show. I'm sure everybody was well entertained. I'm sure they enjoyed it.
Yeah, right. So, so people put up with me for quite a while. Then Brendan did come on for a short time. So that was great. And so it's been great to have you because
I intended to come early, but it was tough to leave that crowd, right? Because, I mean, they're a tough crowd to leave. It's tough to get through.
Yeah.
So crowded. But, yeah. And then I was hungry. I needed to eat before I came on.
Okay. Well, folks, we're going to wrap it up here. I'll try and keep tabs on what's going on down there at the border overnight as much as I can. At some point, I will have to zonk out and get some sleep because we were all up late last night, too. But tomorrow's another day. We'll be back on tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, with more footage. Carla's still down there on the scene in Ottawa. That's the main battlefront in this war for freedom. And, you're doing a fantastic job. And thank you so much for sharing everything with us.
It's absolutely my pleasure. It's an honor to be able to share this with everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with that, that's it. So I'll throw it over to you to sign off, and we'll wrap this broadcast up for the night.
Oh, I get to sign off.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this is Carla Olsen on the ground in Ottawa, signing off for Rick.
Freedom Convoy,
Freedom Convoy
2022.
Thank you. You finish it, Rick.
All right, and I'm Rick Walker with Maverick News and Maverick Multimedia, reminding you to join us again tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as our live coverage of Freedom Convoy 2022 continues. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, because we really need that support to keep the YouTube channel going and keep spreading this word around the world and getting this unedited message out there. And with that being said, folks, we will catch you on the flip side tomorrow night.
And remember, be kind, be Canadian.
There you go.